606. All right, first on the agenda is the calendar, the academic calendar.
All right, so with that,
Brandon's handed something up.
Oh,
Thank you. I'll go that one. I'll go this one. Okay.
one of these ones, this on your side.
We're gonna turn it over to Dr. Ratliff, but just a quick reminder that, we put a committee together, as we do every year. The committee includes staff from all 4 buildings, central staff, administrators, teachers, paras, and a parent representative from each of the PTAs, to look at all options, and we go over the calendar laws with them from the state, and so they know kind of the bookends and what we can and can't do. And the first calendar we submitted to you was their recommendation, and then from our work session last, we were asked to put together a calendar that looks similar to the one that York County has. So Dr. Ratliff worked with their calendar input, and that's the second option, iteration there. And he can take it from here.
You kind of hit everything, and I've got everything typed out here just for easy reference for you, but just notes in general. There is a regional calendar committee. We meet 3 to 4 times throughout the year. We start at the beginning of the year just with just the initial discussions all the way up through the actual calendar development from all the school divisions. A few general things regarding that. All of your regional school divisions are beginning school for students on August 26th. Your state law allows for a pre-Labor Day start 2 weeks prior to Labor Day, unless the school division receives a waiver for weather from VDOE. We don't. Or if there's other rules with that. If you're adjacent to a division and they share common programs, we're nowhere near even getting that waiver. So essentially, we can start 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. The state law says if you do start prior to Labor Day, the Friday before and the Monday after, students must be out of school. All of your regional school divisions have your Thanksgiving holiday from November 27 to 29. All your regional school divisions have winter break from December 23 to January 3rd. And all of your regional school divisions have spring break the first full week of April, which is April 7th through April 11th. There's 2 different drafts, 2 different iterations to the calendar. Draft A is the initial calendar that was developed, and it was based on the regional calendar committee meetings and the 23-24 calendar. First thing we did was talk with administrators, get their input. We took that input. We went to the teacher advisory committee meeting where we had parents set up to come in specifically to talk about calendar at that meeting. So we had teacher representatives, parent representatives from each of the schools at that meeting. We took those input and that questions back to the administrators, went through and addressed that, and then the final result was your proposed draft A. Draft B, as you guys had talked about this last meeting, basically was kind of build something similar to what York County had. I attached York County's calendar to the end of this. It does say draft, but it is their approved calendar. When I asked them, I was trying to get the actual calendar from them, but when I emailed and asked them to send me, the response I got is it's the same as the draft that I sent you. So, but it is their final approved calendar. The calendar, I built it based on York County, so it's very similar in the whole days out and the half days out. It may not be on the exact day, but it's within the general vicinity or time frame. I just tried to kind of mimic what they had done. The only real difference that I could say that you really see in that is we do begin teacher work days 2 days prior to what they do. We started doing that several years ago. This past year we did not, I guess for lack of better words, gave those days back because we did start school a week earlier this year. So those days are added back in.
Ended late and started early.
Correct,
Right.
ended late and started early. So we changed the beginning of the school year and reduced the amount of teacher workdays. So that is built back in for this calendar. So
Alright.
that kind of outlines both of them for you.
So, walk me through a new teacher workday. What all does that consist of?
Amber, you want to talk about those?
Sure, absolutely. So whenever we have a teacher workday, it depends. There are your typical teacher workdays where teachers do their grading and they get things caught up and.
No, I'm talking about the beginning, like before school starts.
So preschool days or pre-in-service days. A couple of things. One, the way that we're looking at it, we have our curriculum curricula that are being built right now. So a lot of training and staff development is gonna have to go into that. The VLA, we're gonna have to train not only elementary folk that are hearing a lot about it, but our 6 through 12 have to be trained on the VLA as well. In addition to that, we are in process of creating a division literacy plan. Our division literacy plan will be rolled out next year as well. So we're gonna have to provide that too. Math is going to be our new math standards, our new English standards. They will all be up in place. And so rolling those out, making sure that any of the curriculum work that's done this summer is gonna have to be presented. We are also planning on getting some teams together to do Spark. Spark is one of those things that we do every year where we bring that professional development in. We also take requests from any of the needs. We do a needs assessment. So depending upon what is answered on the needs assessment at the end of the year, we ask administrators what they think the need is. We look at the data based on what comes back from SOL results. We also ask teachers kind of what do you feel like your needs are, and we try to plan that out. Next year, we're also looking at doing kind of breaking down the SOLs and really building kind of from the foundation. We're taking a step back to do the foundation since we have new SOLs, and we're looking to have people come in and work with us to truly build that strong foundational curriculum. So it's going to be, we have a lot of new teachers that have come in over the past, 10 years or so. So break it down, what does it mean to unpack a standard? What does it mean to meet that level of rigor at Bloom's? How do you infuse STEM into our lessons? And then doing that cross-curricular lesson.
We'll do a lot of that with all of our teachers, veteran and new, but one of the other things we do with new teachers is the housekeeping stuff. They learn how to function in the building, how those procedures for taking leave, what does our handbook say about this, that, and the other thing. So it's how they learn all things Poquoson. As well, we do a couple of fun things with them. Since they're new, many of them new to the community, we take them and show them key areas, the museum, tell them a little bit about Poquoson history. It's been well received by our new teachers.
There's also mentorship that's provided in that time as well for some of the new teachers or teachers that are new to us.
So again, this is for your information, 2 weeks out. We'll be having an agenda item on the 19th for you to approve the calendar for FY25. And so that'll give you some time to think through those two options. And if there's something you want us to do with either calendar in the meantime, now's a good time to poke holes in it, but we can also, but again, we need the calendar approved by March. We're already getting calls from families, hey, we're trying to plan our vacations.
So we have, it looks like 2 midweek half days and the number B. One in March and one in May. Is the only early dismissal midweek Wednesdays, and the rest look like they're either Fridays or Thursdays to give at least 3-day weekends to the parents who have to take kids out and give the teachers a full day of education, professional development. Is that correct?
So it looks like May 5th, on March 5th, and what's the other day?
May 7th? Sounds like the only 2.
Can I ask a follow-up question on there? So these half days, so the March 5th, 2025 is early dismissal. The idea I've been kind of kicking around in my head is the potential of moving that to a Friday. I know there's concern about absenteeism. If there's a half day on Friday, parents pull their kids out and, you know, it increases absenteeism rates.
We're actually more concerned about staff absenteeism on those crucial days. What happens is, having moved from professional development work on Fridays to Wednesday or Tuesday in a previous school division, it's very tempting for staff members to take that afternoon off, to go do other things. And we've been trying to defend that it's valuable, and it is valuable for the vast majority, but it's very tempting for somebody to say, I can schedule a doctor's appointment on Friday afternoon and head out, or a trip out of town. We're not married to that one way or the other. I mean, that's something, we can move them to Friday. We did have this conversation with the calendar committee, again, made up of staff and parents. And the consensus was for those concerns to leave them on Wednesday. That was their recommendation. But I don't think anybody would get heartburn over moving them to Friday. School divisions do their professional development a lot of different times throughout the year. It's not, there's no, this is the right way and that's the wrong way. So that is something we could easily do.
So do you think full day Fridays is gonna have the same concern? Or do you think it's more the half days that kinda get it where
No,
the kids there?
Good question. The full day Fridays are not an issue for anybody except staff, because if we have a staff development day on Friday, then the teachers have the same rights they have if there's kids in there. But if they, it's very tempting to, again, to take that day off.
But it
if
doesn't
it's a
affect the
Friday.
kids.
But it affects our work, the work that we do.
Well,
So
and the outcome, right? Because if your teachers aren't getting the development they need, then the curriculum doesn't get
Teachers
built.
miss 10 days, otherwise, I mean, it's just as bad as the kid missing 10 days, if not worse.
I would agree with that.
So
So
we want the teachers to be there with the kids. right?
Instead, I mean, most time,
They're gonna
people are
skip a
gonna
day.
miss
They'll
the
skip
amount
a
of days
day.
you're gonna miss.
Well,
What does it hit?
maybe.
Yeah.
The trend is, first let me just say this is a very general statement. Teachers generally try to do the right thing. The vast majority of our teachers come to work every day. There is a difference when you have to prepare for a substitute, take the day off, come back, catch the kids up when you have an instructional day that you miss versus a non-instructional day. So I'll tell you that the most conscientious teachers never miss an instructional day unless they have to. They might very well take a Friday professional development day and say, I can catch up on that later. And I'm just telling you from experience, that's the only concern with which day we do it. And again,
So if we keep track and we notice that a lot of these teachers don't need this professional day, we can go back to a teaching day there. If they're not gonna come to professional day because they choose that they don't need it, and if we have a certain percentage, if it's a lot that say we don't need this Friday, we can go without it, then why are we even scheduling it? So it's something we should watch for a couple of years to see if they're actually using it, because they're the ones who are saying they
Well,
need
it's
these days and what they
the amount of
need.
days you have to have for the state, if you don't go by hours, you
Yeah.
gotta still have 180-something days scheduled.
yeah,
Right.
But we can add student days on this, and we'll have way more.
The days that you have here built are required.
Yeah.
So the full day, whether it's Friday or Wednesday, or, to skip that debate just for a minute, have to be added somewhere. So that was the crux with the calendar committee of not, obviously, everybody would rather have a whole day of professional development. We would rather have a whole day of professional development, but in order to get that, you lose an instructional day.
And then it has to come.
And it has to be added to the end of the year. You can't start it earlier,
Right,
and you can't.
and you don't wanna lose holidays.
And you don't,
like-
and they were adamant about, don't mess around with the holidays. So, but that's the only option you have, a holiday. You can pull a day from Christmas or Thanksgiving or spring break and have a school day. I run us all out of town, but otherwise you gotta do what York did, and you gotta kick them back. If you have one during the school year, you add it at the end of the
So
year.
didn't we start the 2nd of January last year?
Yeah, but the calendar this year.
But
But
it's a
it was
funky
two
calendar.
It's
We
two
had-
full weeks.
But if I remember correctly, and I don't have it in front of me, this past January was weird in how the days fell.
Right.
Yeah.
It was. We had to have January 1st, and I'm looking at that calendar now, and that fell on a
Monday.
Monday, I think.
Yeah.
So we had to come back Tuesday, and everybody had the same problem, so it was a kind of just a quirky thing, and it's why we're gonna end up with this year with that 180 day without the extra, snow day. Hopefully we don't need it.
So, two observations, and is the first one in April,
Which is this plan A or plan B?
B, I'm sorry. The early dismissal on the 4th, I would really think that that needs to move to the 18th or the 25th. You're gonna turn around and do a PD the day before spring break.
That way you
I mean,
have some people.
That's a recipe for disaster, I think.
Yeah.
Was that something we copied from York, or was that?
It probably was.
Just,
I mimicked their calendar as closely as I
Yes.
could.
It's on the-
There were a
And
few
I will say
places where I
this,
couldn't,
it's
so.
not uncommon, I hate it, and, I would never, I didn't even notice that about that. Because it is a day that everybody will pack up and leave, it will be an unproductive day.
Right.
But what some school divisions give that for that reason. Half day, everybody leaves, poor attendance, kids don't show up. The teachers, if they do show up and don't have a substitute for that half day, they're gonna, head out of there at noon, with.
I would maybe even move it all the way to February 14th.
You may move it up to February 14th?
Instead of April 4th, move it to February 14th, and so then that will give them at least their development before, what's the circle, interim reports issued? It would give them time to at least get their interim report issues for teachers who need.
that was my next comment, was both February and September have no PD days in them.
So the problem with April 14th, just to throw it out there, typically after spring
February
break. Okay, so we're looking at February.
14th.
He's talking about,
Moving it
President's
up.
Day week, or is that?
Got it.
yeah.
And then that would be, like 2 weeks before interms are kind of done, so they can, or even go to the 21st or something, just to make it where they can at least have interns to give them the time to do, if y'all think that would be easier, to do their interim report cards, or give them.
I'm just worried about like September, no PD day in September, even if it's there's just so much going on at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
Sometimes the teachers like that
Yeah.
day.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the challenge with trying to do full days, is you can't have enough of them.
Without kicking the back end.
Without
Yeah.
kicking them on the, I mean, we could do another whole week of school, but without doing that, so to have enough to place them with the half days, we've been able to put one a month. So we get to be with teachers collaboratively once a month. But with the full days, unless you're gonna put 11,
So the
Days.
5th, November 4th and 5th, we have 2 full days. Should we
What's the
move,
parent teacher conference?
and then no school for things, should we move that 5th, or since there's days off, Thanksgiving and
again,
Christmas
we
is
just
shorter,
copied your
New Year's-
calendar,
Yeah, I'm
we
just
don't
trying
have
to
any
think of-
idea what their thinking was here, why they put
Put
these
that
days
in
where
a
they
day,
put them.
a month that has more days and not shorter days, like a week off of Thanksgiving, or 3 days off of Thanksgiving and 2 weeks off of Christmas, at least put it with our lighter months, like the 24th also, if, January is a lighter month, as in, has many days as kids are in there. Should we move those to days where we have months that are full?
From April 4th to September 27th, they
Yeah.
do their internal reports. Give them a whole day to do that and whatever.
I think so, that would kind of give it to where, and then we can take the one out of January, because you're missing the first week of January and you're missing one day of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and maybe move it to February, so then you would have one, maybe the 7th of February where it comes back in.
So the calendar committee, how did they come up with all this, this product right here?
Well, they came up with a product.
The variables and stuff like that? were they-
I can give you kind of generally how it happens, and they go through and do what you all are doing right now. They look by month where they want things. Some of the things that the staff said is we need a collaborative day each month.
Right.
We need to be together once a month for a collaborative day. So when we share with them, that has to be a half day, because we can't put a whole day in each month unless we extend the school year. The consensus was, we don't want to extend the school year. So we start with the bookends. This is when we have to start, and can we reach consensus that everybody wants to finish 180 school days later? And that was the agreement, consensus, that everybody wanted that. Then they started looking at, there was some debate about the Fridays versus Wednesdays, half days, and I think it was,
Parents wanted Fridays, teachers wanted Thursdays.
there you go,
Thursdays.
Wednesday.
Thursdays. Why Thursdays?
I don't know. Or the question was, can it be a Thursday? I would have to go back and look at my notes, but there was no definitive, it was kind of all over the place.
Yep.
You talk to the administrators, and the administrators say in the middle of the week is better because it splits the week up, so.
The other question I have is, do they have the same classes on Fridays, like in high school? I know they do block, is it switch?
It's
on-
it's A, B
Every
day, so every other day.
Every other
Okay, so we
Friday.
just have to try making sure that it's not all A's,
Yeah.
that it just falls on.
It all because if it's a day off, it's the next day is the
Okay,
day.
okay,
Yeah,
so
they
we're,
don't-
It's not
okay.
by day,
You
it's
don't-
by
Okay,
day.
perfect, okay. Sorry, my kids aren't there yet.
Yep, they'll figure it out real
Yeah.
fast.
I do like how draft B, to me, feels a little less disjointed than draft A more closely resembles this year. And I will say as a parent this year, sometimes I'm, oh my goodness, it's a half day. You know, wait, we just had a half day. You know, it's kind of every other week, it's getting to be a different schedule, which can be a challenge for parents, I believe, especially of the younger ages where, I mean, that's a day off work. You know, that's, or finding a babysitter on a random Wednesday.
Like October.
Yes. So I very much like that improvement, in my opinion, just from a parent perspective to draft B, but I do agree with moving that April 4th date as well. I think that's a very good suggestion to get that into September somehow.
This is, okay.
And I appreciate CJ's request to, try to mimic York County, but I mean, just looking at the teacher days, for instance, new teachers 200, returning teachers 196, whereas we have 3 less days on each one. So I mean, that shows a little bit of the pay differential right there as well. And I don't think without increasing, bonuses even more, the draft B would even be conceivable.
I'm sorry,
Why do we have more to?
what are you, tell me that again.
Draft B is York County. Their teacher days, new teachers, 200, returning 196, whereas ours, new teachers, 197, returning
I-
193.
Thank you.
Why is that different?
That, it just is, there's no
Because
real
of the work days that are built in
before
during
now.
the year when students are out but teachers are in. They're still added on as teacher work days. So it adds to the amount of work days that we have for teachers.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna say, so the requirement we're trying to do is 180 days for the students.
The half day,
And when you turn around and you give the teachers a full day,
right,
we've given them three
additional days.
3 additional
because-
days.
Because the
So
students aren't
without
there.
We've taken
changing
6
it.
half days and turned them into full days.
That's
Right,
right.
and let me give you a little backstory.
So
and
it
I-
should be less days.
No, more. But so the half day, when the student comes for a half day, it counts as a full school day. So that counts as one of your 180 days.
And it
when
counts
you-
as a teacher day
and it
for their
counts,
200 days.
When you take away the student day, it no longer counts.
Right. That's why you have 3 extra
That's
days.
why
to
there
go
are
there.
3 extra
But the
days at the
teachers are
end.
still there regardless of each way, because they're there for the half day, they're there for the teacher
Correct.
day. But it's saying that it's different days, but the teachers are still there more the same days.
And what, I will say this.
Teachers still there the same days, it's just teaching days is what that's showing, right? Not days there.
Paycheck days.
This is teacher in the school day.
This may clarify this
Physical days that they're in the school.
for you a little bit, and this was new to me, coming to Virginia. North Carolina teachers are on a 200-day contract, which means every teacher works 200 days. The only exception is you get, if you take a leave day that you earn as part of your benefits package. So there is no exception. 200 days every year for the last 100 years. So in Virginia, I moved to Virginia, and all of a sudden I realized it's all over the place, how many teacher days. They still advertise a 200-day contract. If you ask anybody,
State law.
200-day contract. But there's not a school division in the state that does 200 days anymore. And what I'm told is that when the recession hit in 2010 or 11, and nobody could get pay raises and salaries were cut, school divisions started to give days instead. Okay, we can't give you a raise this year, so we're gonna take 2 days out, 3 days out, 4 days out, and over time, these calendars of 200 days, for teachers only, now, the law for students has been the same, 180 days, or 990 hours. But, that's what I was told, and we did a little research shortly after I got here, and looked at area school divisions and what their teacher calendars generate, as far as how many days, and there was not a school division anywhere near that does 200 days, or has for many, many years. So, what we've done, again, since I've been here, is we've added a few days back. We were at 191 or 2 when I first got here. Do you remember, Brandon? Maybe 93?
It's been 2 or 3 days that we've added back.
Yeah, we've added one each year, then a second one, so it's not overwhelming, because, that's the first thing a teacher looks at, how many days do I have to work for my same pay? And, so we've slowly added those back, and it looks like York has been on the process of doing the same thing, just adding some days back. Everybody, would love to be, well, let me say this. People in my world would love to be back at a 200-day contract, because you get more work. But the rub for teachers is, okay, we've been working 193 days, now you want us to work more days with no more money. It's hard to get
And I
back.
think that
So
was,
ours,
Jonathan, that was your point.
A is June
Right.
That's
sixth
what you were
ending,
saying.
and the other one's June 11th. So that's the extra 3 days that we have to be in
Yes,
at
correct,
the end.
that's correct.
So, I'm gonna go back to my stump, about half days, moving them from Wednesdays to Fridays. I think it would help the parents out a lot. I don't know, I'm open to, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Is that a good idea, is it a bad idea? What are
Can, do you
That's
think
a
it's,
better compromise for the,
we don't have to
days.
add days on to the
right,
end.
right?
And that's a compromise that I know our staff would accept wholeheartedly. And I will say this, in Poquoson, our half-days are not poorly attended. They're actually very closely attended to a regular whole day, which we were all surprised by. But we pulled some numbers on that. They're nominally different.
you think it's feasible to cut back 3 days of when the teachers report? Or is that not feasible? Because then that would give them those days back.
I would agree with that.
The
And then
problem
they
is we need
Yeah.
every day and then some.
Not with what they have to learn, not
We've got
with what
four
they've
new
gotta prepare.
four new
So we'll give them
curriculum
more
coming into.
Professional development days to learn during the year to do it. That's why I was wondering, we're giving them more days for professional development. Do we need them to be here the exact same time as we normally do? And they need to attend these full days of professional development. That means we're doing more professional development throughout the whole year. So do we need to find those at the first?
I think if
It
you were to
depends if
poll,
you want curriculum
Right.
taught to your students the first day of school.
I think if you were to poll the teachers would already say they don't have enough time at the beginning of the school year.
What you hear as a principal.
Time and money, time and
Now,
money.
I've got a lifetime as a principal. There are certain staff developments you have to do at the beginning of the year. And what happens as the principal is you hear from the staff how little time they have in their classrooms to prepare to get ready for teaching. So the problem you run into is getting all of your mandatory stuff done, all of your professional development things that you need to get done, but then also give them time in the classrooms to prepare. So when we initially, several years ago, went back and said, we're gonna come back a couple of days early, it was in an effort to try to give them more time in the classroom, so we would add ample time to do both the staff development to get the year going and give them time in the rooms to get everything set up and get rolling. But just I'm sure you can ask anybody who's a principal or has done it for some length of time, that's one of the big things you're gonna hear from your staff at starting a school year out.
So if we set 3 of these days, that are full days to half days, that will get them back to where they're supposed to be. We can keep everything the same, we just have to find 3 Fridays that we were gonna give a full day to a half day. And we sacrifice their professional development to give them the days off again. It's like if we decided the 4th of October, the 4th of November, I'm just throwing numbers out so you don't need to write down, and the 24th of January to half days, and they get their days back and we can end 3 days early and everything will be back to normal. Other than they would still get full days throughout, but they would get those 3 half.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. If we go to calendar A, maybe I've missed something.
B.
And I know, but
You only got
I
a day
thought
and
you
a
were
half.
going back to the half days again,
That's what
but
the half
we're
days
moving on
count
the
as 4
Friday.
days as 2 days.
But we're not talking about moving the half days to
The
Oh, they
Friday.
do, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.
So to me,
I don't think it should be all half days, I think they need some full
Yeah,
days,
okay.
and that's what I was looking
Okay,
at.
but
3
the
of these.
difference is the full day has to be added at the end of the year.
So, yeah,
Right.
so right now we're adding 3 extra.
Right.
So if 3 of our full days that we can pick to say, just do those 3 as half days, then they would get it back and they would still get full day, half days instead of half days throughout the whole
So
thing.
then if we did that, let me
There's
just,
no full days. There's only 3 full days in there.
So the
What
5th,
else is that?
they're already,
oh yeah.
they're
the 5th,
already
the
in there.
24th.
that's what I was getting ready to say, they're,
Yeah.
they're there, now you can,
So yeah,
so,
you'd only have 1 full day.
yeah.
So with the change in curriculums to digital and stuff like that, they still need all of these initial day, the teacher work days, the preschool, I
They
guess you
need,
call
they
it.
need 10 more than
So-
what they have. What, the highly successful school divisions, if you study them around the country and the world, have months of professional development. Professional development is the key to everything. If you want your kids to learn at high levels, you hire a great teacher and you train them really, really well. And our problem in public education, most places, is there's just not enough time. And the school systems that thrive are on year-round schedules, and they have less time off and more professional development, and there's an argument for that. We're not there yet, but, you know, that day, hopefully, you know, somebody down the road, we ought to talk about that, but we really need more and more time. Now, let me also say, this is the other elephant in the room. The General Assembly has about 90 current legislative moves that could affect this immediately. That if they get approved next week or two and then get signed by the governor, we're gonna have even a whole other battery of things to train on before school starts. I mean, intense things. In addition, and again, I've never seen this, been at this a long, long time, we've got 4 core curriculum to revamp in 2 years. It's never been done in the history of the world that I know of, and we're all sweating about it. Of course, we're campaigning as hard as we can to get them to stretch that out another year or two. We may get some movement, but of all times to not go cutting any pre-service days, it's now. We're worried we're not gonna have enough time to get it all done before school starts. And if you miss something that should have been in place before school starts and you don't get to do it until October or November or December, you've missed that time that some of these things are mandatory. We have,
So draft B, we're getting more days. Could we make it where 1.5 day is mandatory for teachers and the other 1.5 is optional for them? So wouldn't that now cut back on the days that they have to teach extra? 'Cause if we did half days, they would be doing a half day of teaching anyway. So you could pick one Friday and a half of another Friday to do your professional development. And if you want more, you can come in and do more, but it'd still give them the opportunity to have more if they want it. But then the ones who are gonna complain about those 3 extra days, which they would get anyway with 3 extra half days, then we can continue going to the 11th with them still getting the same teacher days.
let me just say this. Every day is an optional work day for teachers if they're not calendared to be there. If you make a day optional, no teacher's gonna show up, even the most, and so then our professional development didn't happen that day.
Okay.
There's really no such concept as optional work day. If we're gonna have a training,
I'm
we
just
expect
thinking
teachers-
that what I've heard is half days sometimes are not as productive because they're cleaning their rooms, getting everybody on the bus, trying to get other things all taken care of, and then they're rushing in for 2 hours. And if we can find a way to get 8 hours, you can really get 4 times as much work done than you do in a half day. And that's why I'm just trying to think outside the box for a full day of 8 hours of professional development instead of a half day that gives us 2. Because if we find 3 of those, that's 6 hours, we still lost 1 full day.
Gotta
That's
move
all you
to-
got.
You gotta move to the hour system.
Yep.
And you got a whole bunch of days you can
So
skip.
we do B, but do the hour system, would that work?
Yeah, I hope we never do that. Once you slip away from 180, it's a slippery slope. The school divisions that have done that regret it, and they're trying to get back to 180 again as hard as they can go. I'm just hoping we don't do that, but,
And that deals with just efficiency in the classroom, right?
everything about how you do school. Yeah, 180 days of routines for kids, practice, homework at night, all the things that happen over a course of 180 days. Once you slip away from 180, even though you've got the hours, it's not the same instructionally. And it's been studied and studied and studied, and I'll tell you, Newport News slipped away a few years ago and went to 170, I think they got down to 176, 177 days. And I heard it from a lot of people, the impact of that. And their superintendent, Michelle, told me recently, they're gonna they're gonna promote a 180-day calendar, but they're getting battle now from folks saying, well, we have to do 180 days, we have 176.
I mean, I'll tell you, it feels like to me, and this is my personal opinion on it, you know, that taking the draft A and moving the half days to Fridays is probably the middle ground with things. You know, it turns around and it still gets us, you know, ending, you know, on the first week of June versus bleeding into the second week. I think that, you know, psychologically has an effect on parents and teachers if you're bleeding over, even though it's, you know, 3 days that are, you know, semi-productive. You know, I think having the half days on Fridays helps a lot with parents that want to turn around and do, you know, weekend trips and things of that nature. And frankly, it helps the teachers as well, you know, if they have some personal days that they want to, you know, move around on to help with that as well.
But that's a development time, and we're gonna get them to try to leave in early to get out early on a development time, which they're only getting 2 hours on a half day anyway. Now is it turned into an hour that we're giving them? So we're taking away these days that are 8 hours, and now we're going to 1 hour for 3 days to make it 3 hours of professional development, and stuff they need to catch up on where it's.
Well, I will say this, and I hate to keep reiterating this. We should be conscious of the fact that when we put a committee together and ask them to do this kind of work, it sends a dangerous message to do something else. And I want us to be sensitive to that as we think about this. If we're gonna ask people to take their time and go through this, it was 4 hours of hard work on the part of this committee that did diligence of trying to study what they wanted and reach a compromise. The one place nobody was having heartburn about was the Wednesday to Friday, because that was a pretty significant discussion, and teachers can support it either way. Parents can support it either way, or the 4 parents that were there. Would you not agree with that, Brandon?
Yeah.
To come in and say, okay, now we're gonna do something different. One of the things they didn't want to do was extend the school year.
So they put 10 half days.
The thing that scares me is, and I want y'all to comment on it from an administration standpoint, is, and this is to CJ's point, yes, you're probably gonna have some teachers that are gonna turn around and dip out on a half day, you know, just from a functionality standpoint. But if that gives them a long weekend for their family, I would rather them do that than take a full day of instructional time,
I agree with that.
and we have to find a sub and all of that stuff.
I agree with that.
I'm a big
And again,
proponent of PD,
99% of our
but, you know.
teachers are extremely conscientious about this, so I don't think it's gonna be a rampant problem.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
So we have 4 full days in B, but we have 10 half days in A.
There are 5 full days. They are the
Fifth,
3rd
fourth.
of October, the 4th, the 5th of November, the 5th of March, and the 24th of January.
5th of March is a half day
On B,
on B.
on B, you just,
Oh, sorry.
you have to keep in mind,
Yeah.
I'm piecemealing
Oh, I know.
it, just
And
trying to
that
kind
goes-
of
I'm
mimic
just
what
looking
was,
'cause
what
we
was
have
done.
10 early dismissal days on A.
And it's possible that York
Well, one of those
I'm
is
probable
homecoming.
that was intentional about what they want to do on those
Right.
days, we just don't know what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know the
Well, and
why.
I don't think we have to move every half day to Friday, just those professional development half days, right?
And I just don't
That's
know
what
if we
you're
need
saying?
10 of them. I mean, should we go to 8?
Again,
I think that the teachers, what I'm kind of hearing is there's a lot of teacher education, that, you know, there's a lot of planning that needs to happen. I feel like they probably don't have enough time as it is to get done what they need to get done. I definitely don't think parents want the school year to creep into that, you
not
know.
starting early and stopping late.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's.
What's the point?
You know, that really is gonna impact, I think, teachers and parents. It's, I definitely think the 10 days or 15 days in August, you know, that pre-school start from these different curriculums, you know, there's math and English, I think, that's coming out. And then the next
Social
year,
studies and
social
science right
studies and
behind it.
And the
science.
literacy curriculum.
They're gonna have their plates full. So I don't think we don't wanna mess with that, I don't think that would go very well. It wouldn't help our students.
I'll also share that we provided a needs assessment to our teachers, asking them what they felt their needs were right now for Poquoson, and the number one response that was given back was a curriculum that they can work with, and then the follow-up question to that was, would you want that to be PCPS provided, where we work with you and work together to create it, or one that is purchased? They chose PCPS teachers, creating the curriculum and working together. The second follow-up to that for the needs assessment, what do you feel like your needs are? And they listed professional development.
Okay.
So it still puts me back to the 4 days are gonna be the most productive things to
I
get
don't know
that.
though, I mean, honestly though, CJ, when I do professional development, when you do professional development, is 8 hours really better than 2 hours? Not necessarily.
I normally break it up into different groups going to different things to keep them entertained, so not one group's in 8 hours, but it'd be different rooms that they go in with different skills fairs, so it was an 8-hour day.
Yeah, so what does a professional development day consist of? Like what's done during that day?
Just that, we take a topic, whatever the topic is, and we have teams of teachers working collaboratively on that topic. Sometimes it's a module they're working through, sometimes it's an outside presenter coming in with some training. It's almost always hands-on, they leave with a product, something they've created that they can use immediately. A lot of it requires some technology training to be able to access it and use it. A lot of it involves some new, I call it new learning. They're learning a new skill of how to implement this. Especially with the BLA, this is gonna be, it's refocusing the core of everything we do, because everything is grounded in literacy. Even our math curriculum, if you don't read well, you don't do well in math, because they're word problems. So everything is grounded in literacy, and this is training our teachers on the science of reading, which is, for many of our teachers, brand new learning.
It's also mandatory.
And it's required, there's no option about it, and it's right, it's the right thing to do. It is good learning. There's, the stuff that's out there now will move the instructional needle. Y'all have heard all the stuff about, you know, we're falling behind as a nation. This is one of the great shifts that will move that needle instructionally significantly in a short period of time. And I don't mean to go down that trail, but it's a lot of deep training for teachers.
So if it's required, are there a certain number of days that are required, a certain number of hours, just
do it however
check a
you can.
box?
Different school systems will do it a lot of different ways. The vast majority of the training will happen in pre-service days. Some will happen scattered throughout the year. And there'll be, you know, we don't just do it when the kids are gone either. See, that's the other misnomer. A lot of people think we only train when the kids are gone. We have professional learning communities every day. And those teachers meet collaboratively every day. It's a short amount of time, but you can do a snidbit of something in there for 30-minute, 45-minute training. A lot of that is done by our ITRTs. That's their job. They come in and help train our teachers on a module or whatever that is that day.
What does the ITRT acronym stand for?
Information technology
Instructional
resource.
technology resource teachers.
So-
Resource teacher.
We have 2 full days, 10 half days. That's 7 days off.
Wait, what?
2 full days off, the 11th and the 5th, and then 10 half days. That's 7 total days off. York County has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total days off and 2 half days, right?
We have the 2 full days in November for parent-teacher conferences, and then division-wide PD on February 5th. York has 4 full days and 4 half-days. But I
That's
did
6.
include, like, if you look at theirs, one of their ones that they include on number 5 is the day after school's out. I only looked at the constraints of within the school year.
So I would be down, and I know you said do hourly and just take away those 3 days and would still only be 1 or 2 days off what York County has, and they would get the full days. We go to hourly, we go to 177, and the half days, sometimes my kids are going so excited that they're just jumping for joy that they're getting off for a half day, and I just don't know if it's as productive. And that's where, if we have full days and it's more productive, it could be productive. Those half days just throughout, it's just a lot of them.
So what's your justification for switching to hourly? I wanna hear that.
Because then we would be able to still end on the 6th. That's the only difference.
Even with all those?
Yep.
So 86 hours?
You could have 177.
13 hours.
And
Would it create sort of a, I mean, when you're going to hourly as opposed to daily,
It's a bad move.
it's a tracking,
So why is it a bad move?
It's just a bad move to ever get away from 180 school days. You'll never get back. It's a very dangerous move.
Part of the reason that I think I heard him say, Jonathan, part of what I think I heard Artie say is there's a routine, right? Part of learning is a routine, and the 180 days gives you more exposure over time to this routine of learning. You know, you go to class, there's a cycle, if the class is a certain length of time. You know, all of those things are done for a reason, and that way, that's what I think I heard Artie say, you know, is a reason why you don't wanna get away from the 180 days.
at the half days,
I
that's
think-
not that whole routine.
Wednesday, that's a lot.
And I think the routine,
As late as we can do them. I don't know where they are on the calendar
I mean,
now.
the half days are
They-
just as
they
routine,
take a
but-
yeah,
window.
what, Jonathan?
I think the routine is still there, it's just we would end sooner, we would end the school year sooner, or we would begin the school year.
That's a load
later.
testing usually made, and I talk to
So
my
we
kids
could
after they've done their
start
test,
later.
they're not doing
If
much.
that's the case.
And so, routine would
It's
still
late.
go, we would just
Yeah.
stop the same time we would stop now. We would just have professional development days that we worked in instead of half days, which a half day is just as mess up of a routine as any other one, because they are jumping for joy before they even go to school.
I think that we need to have consideration for the fact that this is the calendar that the school and the team and the committee brought forward. I think switching from hours to days is a conversation that needs to occur over a length of time that I don't think we have to make a choice to switch from days to hours. We had the same conversation last year and we decided that we weren't going to do that for lots of different reasons. I think, you know, I don't think that any of us here are any better experts than the people who are advising us on this calendar.
But York
So-
County got advised. So I'm not, they looked
They
at our
have
calendar for
180
this
school
year,
days.
they looked at
They
our
have
days
a-
for
there are
this day.
100 they go 3 extra
And
days.
if you were to call
York
any of the
County goes-
superintendents and ask them, professional educators, do you get away from the 180-day calendar? Every single one will tell you no.
Right.
But we need more
Clearly,
professional development than they need because they have curriculum writers and everything else that y'all have explained.
that's not true.
That's
That's not true.
at
You
all.
still have to have, you
So
still
they
have to
don't-
have training days.
So we are doing more professional development than York County is, total. We are doing more, and we said we needed more. But we don't wanna go back and we don't wanna move the days back, but we don't wanna ask the teachers to come more. So we don't ask teachers to come more, we still put more professional development, and we're messing up a routine by having kids 10 days.
We have better scores, we have better outcomes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We have better outcomes than York County, CJ.
So almost 9 months, you're having 10
CJ,
half
we
days.
have better outcomes.
I understand.
So outcomes are the measure. The measure of success is the outcome. The student's success is the outcome.
What was
Of
our
the
numbers before
development-
the Wednesday half days? What were our numbers at that point?
It doesn't matter if the
Can we get
numbers.
those?
Second, we were up there, higher.
So we were still there before these Wednesday half days. So if you want to measure that Wednesday half days are putting us higher than other people, you might want to look at what we did before Wednesday half days, because that Wednesday half days was something that we added on late. And that's where I think that's where we really got to look at if Wednesday half days were.
If the teachers
okay.
are saying in their needs assessment that they need the time, and we have the time and we have the success and the outcome,
So we're giving them more time with full day professional development.
But we're
they're
extending
spread
the
out-
week.
But they're spread out, those, you know, maybe they need smaller chunks of time more frequently throughout the school year to get things done, rather than big chunks every other month.
I mean, we asked them and this is what they said.
I mean,
And that's what, when I came to the board, that was the statement. We asked, this is what they said, and this is what was done.
They said Fridays. We
Yeah.
chose to go back to Wednesdays on this board. They asked for Fridays, half days. And we said
Well,
no. We're
Well,
going to Wednesdays.
yeah, That was-
And that is again, the committee who did a lot of work on this was wrestling with the Wednesday to Friday. So if you're gonna make a compromise, that's the compromise. Go to move your half days to
Right.
Friday.
go to the A draft.
You get a
do the
win
half day
there.
to Friday.
And you still, support the work of the committee that we've charged with doing this work.
So with our work session, we can put together a calendar that does hourly, ends on the 6th, with the full days, and the other one, we can take a vote. Because that's what we do in our meetings, is take a vote, correct?
This is the work session. We'll put, we were planning to put this on the agenda for a vote at the March meeting.
We can do A or B. I say let's do the hourly to 6, and everybody can say no but me, which is fine, and keep the full days on Fridays to give them professional development. And if everyone wants to go with B, that's fine. If everyone wants to go with A, that's fine, and that's what we do. We talk about it, we've discussed it, and now we take a vote on it. Instead of just saying this is what's gonna be up for vote. And that what work sessions are, we put things out, put 2 things out that we've all discussed, instead of keep killing each other over it, and then we vote.
I just need y'all to be clear to me about it.
So
I need
I-
another draft to put together, to what exactly to put
Exactly.
together, to
One
put out
days
there.
and one hourly.
Hourly, end on the 6th, you
No.
can keep the
Well,
same one.
Stop.
Well-
I'm gonna call a timeout. I'm
Okay.
gonna call a timeout just for a minute before we send Brandon back to the drawing board again. Okay? Because he came to us with the B draft and we were changing the days. We were like, hey, we don't like the 4th and we wanna change this and what about this and what about that? So, if we're gonna try to bring an hourly thing, we can't bring it to the next meeting. Because we're gonna need a work session to talk about it.
All we gotta do is move a couple of days that we already talked about, and then the end day would be the 6th. It would be hourly and end on the 6th.
CJ, I don't think it's just that simple. I don't think it's just that simple. I think there's work that you have to do to make sure you have the amount of
There-
hours and all of those things and.
Is there? Can we make the hours to
Absolutely.
177?
We can. I think what we need to do is do a straw poll here real quickly. Is this one board member who wants to move in this direction, or are the rest of you interested in changing the 180-day calendar? Because that's a
No.
whole different discussion. If we're just hearing one, I don't know that that's a
agree.
movement we need to
I agree
do.
with that.
And I'm throwing that on the table. That's not how
That's
the
fine.
work sessions are supposed to work. We're not here to just
Entertain every idea.
entertain every
Fair
idea.
enough.
So we can't work like that. We
Right.
can't just
I
go
agree
hear
with
from
that.
one person,
So let's
oh,
do
we
a
gotta
straw
change
poll.
how everything does and go back and change all this. We put together a calendar committee to do some serious work. What
Right.
boards typically do is if there's a
Approve the
subtle
work.
change in that you want to, that the board has some consensus to feel strongly about, that's work session work. This is not about coming in here and somebody comes in with one idea and we change out the whole plan in a work session. That's not the purpose of these work sessions. We've gotten way off track here.
I agree.
Okay.
I
And
agree.
we gotta get back to work to do this, the work that we're charged with doing, and we can't get in the weeds on this kind of thing. We task committees to do this work, professional educators who are trained to do this, and then we come in here and we try to nitpick these things from what we've heard from our neighbors, and that's not the way we're supposed to do business. And I just caution us about going down that path. If professional educators have warned against going away from the 180-day calendar. Everywhere it's been tried, people have gone back to getting back to the 180-day calendar, and it's a challenge to ever get back. Because once you take a day out, trying to get it back is hard. People want the results, but they don't want, but everybody will take a day off. Let it snow, you'll know everybody wants a day off. But then they want the same results. And they don't, it doesn't just happen like that.
Is that when that was there, like snow days and stuff like that? That's
Absolutely.
when hourly was more prevalent?
Well, what happened is that the state was being sensitive to the fact that these schools that are in the mountains lose a lot of days of school. They just do. They will miss. And so they created the hours. The or in there is exclusively for problems. It's not designed for people sitting around the table to say, oh, let's just get rid of 180 school days and let's just
So we can end the
calculate
calendar.
the
Cat,
hours.
cat, fire, hurricane hit here. and we
That's what the
pivot.
hours
We
are
could
for.
Pivot to the hours.
Absolutely.
For that year.
That's
its purpose.
Whatever, you know.
And it's
So we
So
always
you
can
been
can
its
pivot
purpose.
in the middle of a school year?
Yeah. I can make an administrative decision to toggle to hours by law anytime, but the purpose of that is to do that, is to
In a
toggle
disaster
in an emergency.
But do you have to finish out the remainder of that school year with the hours?
If I have 990 hours and I have an issue, I can end the school year at 990.
But, right, but in the middle of the school year, let's
You
say
can
we have
go
a
10 hours a
hurricane
day
or
if you
whatever.
needed to.
Yeah.
Whenever.
You have to stay the hourly until the end of
Yeah.
the school
But
year.
once
So
you
for
flip, I mean,
example-
you already are
You can't
projecting
flip
that
back.
you have
Yeah.
990.
For example, there have been lots of cases over the years where school divisions have had blizzards typically, and they'll miss multiple weeks of school. And then those school divisions can't possibly make up all those days. They have to go to school all summer. So the state, in their wisdom, created the hours.
So,
And that's, the or allows that.
So
Most states, it's and. 180 days and X number of hours. Sorry, I know you.
no, I was just gonna add,
Yeah.
I was gonna add on to your statement, but it's, growing up in Charleston when Hurricane Hugo hit, schools were out for months. They were shipping kids to other parts of the state.
I'll say Isabel here.
And,
Yeah, I mean, not to that
And
extreme,
so,
but.
but what they did was they started adding like an extra hour here,
Mm.
and, some of the.
So it's the backup plan.
In your
Yeah.
county, they did, you can miss the first 5, you gotta make up the
Okay,
next
if you-
5, you can miss the next 5 afterwards,
No,
to
if
make
you
that
go back
15 days is 5 days to make up.
Exactly.
If
And
you go back just a couple of years, you'll see that the calendars were 181 days. And if you go back a couple of years more than that, you'll see that there were 182 days. Kind of the rule of thumb when you're starting to develop this is to shoot for around 182. In case you have inclement weather, you don't have to make it up, you don't have to have the virtual. But what has happened is because how the dates fall and the weeks fall and everything, without extending the year beyond where we're at, it's impossible to get more than 180. So there's where you've seen the regression of actually building in the extra day and having to rely on the time. But that's also why you see the note that's at the bottom, if we miss days,
We
some
start
of the
losing
days we have
MLK
out
and President's Day.
could be
Yeah.
that, because we can't get the 181, 182 built in anymore without extending the school year, with starting the year earlier.
And the reason I was thinking about those 3 days is if you look on B, you have 176 full days in class, and then ours A, you got 169 full days.
Yep.
So we are cutting hours already, it's just we're tricking it to say we're doing it as a half day instead of doing it as a full day.
But we have 36 hours over the 990, I think, isn't it?
Much more than that.
How
It's
much
on
is it?
here.
86 hours.
Is it 86 hours, yeah, okay.
I just think going to an hourly
86
schedule
over the 990, yeah.
is an accounting nightmare.
Well, yeah, and it's also, it sounds like a backup plan
Right.
for anything.
It
You don't
is.
want
I
to
don't
start
like
with a
the-
backup.
Yeah.
If you do not hit, I mean, there's a certification that, you can share
I have.
this.
sign, yeah.
If you don't do 180 school years, there's a certification that the superintendent has to do to the state
Yeah,
to
so
say
there's
that,
more
yes, we
things.
have met the standards that
Right.
we.
The standard is 180
Part of the
days, and
accreditation
pretty much
process.
everywhere. And to deviate from that, I just think is a dangerous path.
Just-
Although we could get away with it,
No.
it's not what
10 half
we're
days,
trying to
that's
do.
just-
But if what I'm hearing is kind of the consensus about the Friday thing, I think that's a good compromise, and we can move that and make that easy, by just adjusting the A calendar. And
Yeah.
then you've got the days that we've supported what the staff has said they wanted, year after year after year, that
Right.
they need this time to collaborate, and I think if there's ever a time that they need it, it's now.
This coming school year.
Do you think
Yeah.
they're gonna use it on Fridays?
I
That was
do,
your
I think,
concern?
I think they're gonna do it. I am always concerned about Fridays. It just is, if you go to anywhere and look at attendance on Fridays for everybody, kids, teachers, it's the poorest attended day of the week in every school system in the country. It just is. And we all know why, but at the same time, and part of it is people are worn out by Friday. People are tired. Friday's a tough day.
Well,
So, that is why those of us who are charged with trying to create quality in everything that we're doing, is we want the days to be high quality.
Should it be Monday?
I would, no, I would,
Monday's the worst
I
day,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I would much rather, and I would much rather, based on my experience with my wife, be, they would feel much better we're talking K through 5, reappropriating students into other classrooms on a half day than doing that on a full day.
On a whole
Yeah.
day, yeah.
You know,
That's a good
so,
point.
and then same thing with, if there's a teacher missing. From like a sub standpoint, it just, there's a lot of advantages to a Friday, or any half day.
well, there's
What
at
kind of
least a
routine does that do for the
budgetary,
kid?
from a budget perspective, knowing what our constraints are, it is at least something
Right.
more towards their request.
One thing that, and I'm honestly surprised it hasn't come up, and I didn't put a note on it, so, let me go ahead and address now. In October, your half-days are both on a Friday. The
Yes.
reasoning for that,
Homecoming and,
homecoming, you all being
Yeah.
here know
Which is
what
it.
the deal that is with the parade and what has to happen there. But the 18th is a regional day that everyone does, and
Okay.
that is why that day is on a Friday.
John,
Yeah, so, all right, so March 5th and 19th kind of goes with what you were saying. So there's two, professional development, collab, and, all those days, early dismissal, all those days. Why two during that time? Is the SOL on the 5th? What's the reasoning specifically for two being in there?
One parent teacher.
yeah, PT conference.
Yeah, that is when the quarter ends, interims, like, why is it the 5th? Is that
The 5th is your second semester parent teacher
second semester
conferences.
parent teacher?
Because
That's
we
right.
don't do a whole day
Right,
for that day.
right.
And I can tell you, coming from a division, granted many years ago, that did parent-teacher conferences differently, we did have one each semester, but it was a teacher work day from 3:30 in the afternoon to 8:30 at night. So this is something that we still are keeping people with, giving them time to be able to meet with teachers is why you try to build that in. But again, if you do an entire day like you do first semester, we're running into the problem of we're gonna have to add days to the end to make up for that.
I think adding days to the end is a really bad idea,
Yeah.
from parents
Agreed.
planning vacations.
And that was the consensus of the committee.
And then teachers too, they wanna get their classrooms emptied out and get started on their vacation as well.
Well, and I feel like when we agreed to start early, part of that was with we would end
end
early
Yeah,
too, so last year, we had to close the gap, so we ended late and started early. I can't imagine then saying, oh, well, now we're gonna start early and end late. Every year.
So, anyway, we can, move those days to Friday if that's what we're hearing some kind of consensus around, I mean, I'm looking at nodding heads, but and we could create a calendar very easily, leaving this one and and one with Friday, a C calendar, with just moving them to Friday. So you will have a vote, a calendar to just say we vote for A, B, or C calendar to make it easier for the.
So A being what's currently A.
A
on
would be
Wednesday.
A's calendar,
B being,
the
B.
current B
B
calendar,
calendar,
and
and C
then
being-
C. That way you don't get in a mess like can happen. You get in a board meeting and then we're
there's confusion.
confusion about what it is we're doing. Typically, when we bring a calendar, we work through it, and then we come in with A, B, C, we can do D, E, F, and then you pick a calendar and
I'd
everybody.
rather just have one calendar we figure out every year. And
Yeah,
just,
we could do that, yeah.
Let's just move it to Friday and pick that calendar, but nobody.
Draft
else-
A,
Okay.
we have Friday.
Can we reach some consensus on that?
And that's the biggest gripe I have.
Do we
Is
have,
the Wednesday to Friday.
can we do a straw poll? Is
You're
that
working.
allowed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do a straw poll.
Yeah.
You know, advocating to get time off to do it on Wednesday versus a Friday is a tougher sell.
It's better than a straw poll, we call it reaching consensus. So I think if just even from nods, if there's no real objection to that, to moving from Wednesday to Friday, we can do that very easily, and we put it on the agenda for the 19th, and we can get a calendar out of there.
I'm in agreement with that.
Everybody in agreement?
CJ?
I mean, it is what it is, I still think 10 half days is a lot, but not a full day.
It's all about the days.
Doesn't matter,
so that's-
you could be outnumbered. Or we're on the school board.
Next item,
Is the playground. The TES playground.
just a quick backdrop again, this money, this $155,000 is, money that was one time, from the state for the purpose of new construction, renovation projects to the facilities, and Tracy, there was one more thing.
Additions, site acquisitions, you can use it for debt payments, but we don't have that. School safety equipment.
Gotcha. And so we worked with the city to attack our capital projects with the two largest needs, being the primary school roof and HVAC system. That took all of the money except $155,000 of this pot. So we are able to use this $155,000 for those purposes only, just as clarification. So in this dialogue over multiple weeks, and I would say even years, there's been the talk of the elementary playground. Dr. Ratliff got some preliminary quotes. This is just preliminary, just to see ballpark, what would it cost to do a playground upgrade at the elementary school. And it came in around the $150,000 mark. Now, what we're, what, 140.
Yeah,
140.
Saw that on Roxanne's email.
Yeah, so, that's, we didn't know until we, took a stab at it. So, it's great that we're in that, place to have these finances to be able to do this. And, so we put it on the agenda before. You all tabled it, want to talk about it again. It's there. It can be used only for that. It can't be used to, offset any other projects.
Can it be used to contribute, Ms. Overby's most recent email had suggested if this comes to vote, possibly we amend the motion slightly to say playground is first. If there is remaining funds, the intent would be that it go to finish the structure at the.
We believe
I
so.
don't know, can that be done?
Now,
Or
the
is
question is, and we believe you can.
Okay.
The outdoor classroom is not something that's like specifically mentioned in that list of things that you can do.
Okay.
We believe we can.
Okay.
The,
Well, it's a renovation, right? Because it's a current structure.
It's
not-
No, I think it's
Can it be,
Not
it's
the
brand,
primary
it's a
school.
brand new,
but this is
But-
left over from the HVAC,
from state,
for the HVAC
capital
though, right?
money, state capital money, basically. Yeah.
So if the HVAC goes over what we estimated, which would never happen because they estimated perfectly, would this money be able to do what they find once they go up there and say, oh crap? If that never happens, then that's good, but I feel
High school HVAC?
the HVAC for, then the roof that we're doing, right?
For next year.
That's
That's
done
done.
at primary school.
That's
This
done
was,
already.
this is money left over from the primary school for
The
last.
past
Yeah, but
project.
the next one that we're gonna pay
That's the high
for,
school.
High school.
what happens if that comes in higher than what we thought?
Go back
Because
to the-
everything's going up in price right now. Every supply, every person
I
working.
don't disagree with you. My only worry, and I guess when I hear that, yes, that's a very logical thing to look at. But my only worry is this money came from the, and you may have to help me, the 22-24 biennium budget from the state, and we're already a couple of years old. Initially, we thought the money had to be spent by this June. Then we found out that they didn't have to, so you're looking at almost 2 years out on the high school HVAC. My only worry is
Take it back.
that 155,000 still gonna be there in 2 years for us to
What kind of
use,
drawings do you have of the playground? Do you
We
have
saw
a-
that and we used to have current,
And typically, it's easier for us to get additional
Let me see it next.
funds
I don't know we have.
for an overage in the CIP
And we just give away our.
At that
bid
particular
process,
time
maybe give
than it is to try to hold
Actually,
money.
We have found that that actually works pretty well, because what we end up doing is getting, everybody's, they're gonna compete, they know we're gonna open bids.
Right.
Right.
So what the vendor wants to do is win the bid, so they're gonna put as much on that pile as they can. I have found that actually benefits us.
Brandon, do we have any procurement issues if we contribute to the structure?
Wonder that too.
They have, I met with them I guess it was this past week, and kind of talked through procurement, and talked through engineering aspect, the permitting aspect, and they've gone through the right processes, and I told them what would need to be done, and that.
but
What's our threshold for
we're-
having to go through competitive,
Under $50,000 through written bids, and we have that. So on the procurement end, I guess our role when we have outside organizations doing projects within the schools is, number one, we have to look at the maintenance aspect, because they may be doing the project, but we've got to take care of it and live with it.
is it meeting our standards?
Right, so we have to look at that, and we have to make sure that they're following the right processes. And those were the couple of things that I talked through with them, and honestly, they've done a very good job in what all they've done, and from raising the money to the background work to everything. So I guess to answer your question, no, I think we're in good shape along the lines of that. But I honestly would turn around and ask Tracy to make sure. She's more of the expert here.
And here's a
That'd be my big
recommendation
concern.
I would make to that, to your question, is rather than make that in a common motion, is, if it's the pleasure of the board to move to do the elementary project, then we come back, the next meeting, and
Similar to what we did
and
here.
just same
There's
thing.
money left.
Yep, exactly, and we'll also hopefully be looking at coming to the board with carryover funding. We usually do,
Sure.
it won't be nearly what it has been in the past.
So
but,
we'll finish that project and make sure that's paid off and then say, now we have this.
Or
other
at least
something.
have POs or a PO written for it, it'll be earmarked for that project. Then we'll know what we're talking about, and then if there's leftover funds from that can still be spent on a project, and that project qualifies for, we're all behind it. I think nobody's opposed to that project, and they've done a lot of work.
Close, to be honest, based on, I looked at the, if I understand correctly, based on Ms. Overby's email, the contractor that I believe we're pursuing, based on the fundraising totals provided and that estimate,
They're close.
we're not at much of a differential, and I believe those
And they're,
efforts are
apparently
ongoing.
they're donating a whole lot of
It's a lot of in-kind
services.
going on
I think
there.
so too.
Which is fabulous. I mean,
Yes.
they've done, that team has done incredible work to get to this point. Really extraordinary to raise that kind of money for a project, but it also has a great name on it,
Yes.
A
Yes.
lot of people are willing to donate to extend her legacy. So, yeah, good work. So we will, if it's okay, we will put it on the agenda for the March meeting, March 19th meeting, for consideration, and then you can yes up, yes or no down, and we'll take it from there.
Honestly, hope that the going out for bid, I would hope that we're gonna get a lot better pricing than the
Yeah.
estimate that I've got.
Good.
So,
Have they come back to you and said, hey, we need to raise the price a little?
this
Ever
was,
since they-
the people that I was dealing with when we had the handicap accessible equipment put in, which is an actual playground company installer, they're the ones that gave me the quote. So it was an actual playground company, and, you know, you don't really give them a ton of information when they're giving that, because they will play with the numbers on it, you know, so, he hasn't, he did know from the get-go, I need a good price range to know if this is gonna be something that's feasible for us or not. So,
So we got a quote this quote that you got was from last fall, is that correct? So it was $140,000. If we got another quote, like if we voted and said, hey, this is what we want to spend the money on, you would go out and
we'll put it out for bid.
put it out for bid.
Yes, we'll put it out for bid.
And
We would just release or approve the funds, and
Right,
then it
so
would go
that-
out for the bid at that point.
I guess where I'm going with this is, do you think that the new quote would be similar? Would it be more? Would it be less?
It could be more.
Yeah,
But
I would suspect more.
Historically, what you find when you go out for bid, and Artie, you, Tracy, and Amber can correct me, but typically somebody comes back with a little bit better price than.
Well,
what
somebody
you
could come
what
back
you
in and
imagine,
undercut
you know.
all
Would
the
it be
other
open or
bidders.
closed bid?
It's
Private?
It's-
You know what I'm
it's-
talking about, where you
when we-
sealed.
when we-
Sealed bids.
Competitive
Yes.
seal bid.
Yeah.
We put them out for everyone, and when they come back, we typically will go the RFP rather than the IFB route, so we have a little bit of more,
Protection.
Sure.
yeah, there may be one that suits us, this may suit us
Flexibility.
more than this
Yeah.
one, but it costs $3,000 more, so if we go the route where we're actually rating the proposals that come in, it gives us a little bit of flexibility. But I would say historically, when we go out for bid, I'm usually even surprised at some of them that come in, and we typically get a little bit better deal. So
What if we approve something that's lower than that, just to have a little bit more competition?
then you have that.
What we typically do, and what you'll see on the agenda, is for a consideration, item for consideration for the superintendent to enter into a contract, a bid, submit an RFP for this project. And that's all we put in.
We don't give them an
approval.
amount, because if we tell them an amount,
It'll come out
that's where they're
exactly.
gonna come in
Yeah.
at.
Okay.
Oh, I thought they asked you for a budgetary.
No.
I needed to
Always
know
do.
about, no, I needed to know about how much a new playground would cost, because we were getting questions to know if it's even in the ballpark for us to look at. Is it gonna cost $30,000? Is it gonna cost $200,000? So no, when we put these out, if we put an amount on it, that's
Oh,
the amount
yeah.
they're gonna come
Yeah.
in at.
Yeah.
So no, it's basically up to them to give us the amount, so they're competing against one another, and they don't know what that range may or may not be.
And just to clarify again, the only reason we're able to have this discussion, because these are all done in CIP. We
Right.
don't ever talk about this as a board until it's CIP time, because anything over $50,000 that has a generally 10-year plus lifespan is a capital project.
Right, but
So
this money came from a special
this came
state
from a
fund.
special thing. One time, I've only seen it once in my whole career, where the state has put in the operational budget a certain amount of money for school divisions to address capital projects. It's very, very rare.
In this case, it appreciates not having to have a trash can sitting in the middle of the office.
Yes.
with rain
Yeah,
pouring in.
yeah. And you know, I don't think we've had, just as a sidebar, I don't think we've gotten one complaint from that building about the HVAC system.
So you think the state put it in there, you think they put it in there as an intent to say, okay, people are gonna use it for playgrounds or something like that, or you think it was put in there to make the school better?
I think it was put
Well, I
in
mean, I
there
think
to do
playground helps
exactly
the school
what we
better.
did, but
Okay.
playgrounds are an important part of the
Yeah.
curriculum. You know, and if you've got a place that the playground is the problem, then I think they would depend on school divisions to decide. where to
Modernizing
best spend that
classroom
money.
equipment, I mean, it's a
It's
course
custom.
within the
Absolutely.
school day, so is that
We're,
not a
we're
question?
confident that it checks the boxes for what this money was designed for, so. And the fact that we used it for a massive project that chipped away at our capital improvement plan, the lion's share of it, I think, is the right thing to do. Anyway.
So next year, our capital, what projects do we have going on?
I
Somewhere
should
to
have
next
brought them
year?
in, but we meet in the, we typically meet in the fall, early fall.
Yeah.
And they've changed the time frame. The city has. We normally have that to them by, I think it's October, November, late October, early November. So it'll be one of the first things we do in our fall meeting is CIP, and we'll bring the 5-year plan and look at it again and say, is this where you want it? Now, again, we will have taken 3 projects off of there that have already been earmarked,
So what do
and
you,
approved.
what do you think might be starting in summer and the beginning of next year as capital?
I think it's 11 or $12 million already on there of capital projects over the next 5 years.
They developed I think it was a 9-year plan in which they were actually gonna incur debt service to go ahead and address a lot of these capital needs that we have that have kind of been kicked down the road, so.
For many years.
So we don't have a plan for the summer or next year beginning?
If memory
right now?
serves me correctly.
Yes, we have, that was just approved by the city.
So what do
For
we-
next year, we're doing
We got
the
the 2 school
HVAC
buses.
system at the high school
Not this summer,
and-
but next summer.
and the, well, FY '25.
We're not doing anything.
CJ wants to know
And
what we're
2
doing
school
this year.
buses.
This summer, 2 school buses.
Yeah.
And then that next summer, I think, is this year's money, or that year's money, but then
Right.
that's when the HVAC.
And this
project-
cannot be used for school buses.
This not.
Yeah. Okay, next topic
It's budget.
is budget. So we're gonna turn it over to Tracy just for a quick update.
Anybody need a bio break?
A what break?
Bio break?
Peter poop.
Yes.
Medical
Very
term.
In healthcare, that's what we call a bathroom break, a bio break.
It's called potty breaks in schools.
Yeah.
Bioburden break,
I just need to stand up.
burden.
I won't tell you what we call it in the wastewater
Ready?
industry.
All right, then we'll go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's
Well,
our
let's see some
update. You know, we met a week ago. Let's see here. I want to tell you where we were. Requests from the staff were funded for materials, supplies, equipment, software, professional development, and other services. And at that time, that gave the city going to the city, asking for $623,608. During the last board meeting, we were given some directives. You're interested in doing the $87,000 for stipend increase, and we needed to find savings from potentially one-time equipment additions. That was currently in the budget. And also, we're gonna have no budget change related to the AP test cost. So staff met and we reviewed the equipment additions, and we identified $87,000 of equipment requests to be deferred. That was primarily a work truck, an associated utility trailer, and gen paint for the PMS, which, so one time they're just gonna be deferred 1 year out. In addition, staff recommends deferring an additional $114,870, and there's a laundry list of that. Again, it's one time that we felt like we could do without for this year and go into the next fiscal year 26 operating budget. I just want to note we didn't make any budget changes to instructional or the operating request. So that leaves where we are now. We funded the $87,000 worth of stipends. We found an additional $114,870 of savings. That would give our city funding request down to, from $623 to $508,738. And that's having a 5% raise for our employees.
5 or 5.5?
Five.
fine.
Five.
Can I
Certainly.
ask you, so gym paint, was that at the elementary school or the middle school?
Middle school.
Middle school,
Middle
okay.
school.
And the 114K,
Mhm.
that was deferred,
For 1 year, for the needs that were done, it was like for a, it was, 36,000 was for a car for job coaching. We cut the projector budget, they had asked for 35,000, the projector's about 2,200 to 2,500 a piece, so we just cut that in half to try to get them up to their maintenance schedule. Forklift for 20,000 was admitted. After discussions with operations, they felt like they could go another year. Student desk and chairs, desk and chairs, we feel like it can be identified by reviewing everything that's in
We're gonna move some
labs.
desks and chairs
They're
around the
happening
division, we
in
have some in
other
trailers
classes, yeah.
that they will, they'll be they'll match in a classroom, they won't match the whole school,
Right.
and we can kick that back a
and
year.
how much was that for the student desk and chairs?
17,550. And then there was $10,000 of a badge reader that we were able to accommodate in this year's budget. And then there's a few other ones, but that's the bulk of it. As I just noted, the superintendent's budget included a 5% increase, which we included in our budget as well. And state funding, superintendent's budget included 5% increase. The governor had none. However, he had budgeted approximately $100,000 for bonuses. Now, the House and Senate now have done their budgets. They presented their budgets and the conference committee is coming out now. The House budget proposal included $372,158 worth of state funding, and they were at a 3.375% pay raise. The salary and benefit cost associated with 3.375% comp increase is $617,055. However, they didn't fund anything for bonuses. They took that off the table. The Senate budget took bonuses off the table as well. They said no. Both of them said we need to give our teachers and our staff salary increases. So the Senate came in at 3% with an associated funding of $256,303. Now, we don't really know how that's going to hash out. I don't know if anyone's following the Richmond press. Governor Youngkin is, he's kind of pushing back on the salary increases for teachers right at this time, in light of his tax package that he wants. So we really don't know where that's going to land, but I wanted just to provide you the information regarding the associated state funding, if it happens. And any questions?
So the 5% pay increase across the board
Yes.
in our school system,
Mhm.
what does that cost us in salary and benefits?
And salary and benefits is 900, the salaries is 718,884, and benefits is 195,273, so it's approximately 914.
Okay.
Yep.
And we've offset a significant
Significant.
portion of that cost, not
That's been
only with
split.
the 100,000 that we're minimum confident we're gonna get, but also we're hopeful, let me leave it at that, that we will get somewhere around that 3% from the debate that will ensue over the next weeks between the General Assembly and the Governor's office.
So tentatively, it'll be 8%?
No.
No.
Maximum that's coming out of Richmond is 3.7.
3% plus 5%.
Yeah.
So,
Versus our 5%. So here's where we landed with the 5%. Again, we're being very aggressive in our ask. Around the region, what we're hearing from other school divisions is they're gonna land around 3%, with the exception of York. And York is the outlier, and we, from our conversations with this board, we were trying to get as close to York as we could.
Are they at 5.5?
Their budget was presented at 5.5. They may land higher or lower. We don't know. They're in the same boat we're in right now, presenting a budget. They're feeling very confident that they're going to get at least their 5.5.
So, our 5%, and if the state comes back and says 3%, that's really 1.5% because,
Correct,
so we would be looking at a 6.5%
correct.
pay raise.
No, we would be looking at 5%. Our budget is 5%.
City's only giving 3.5.
Right.
Okay,
So here's a couple of ways to
That's what we're
play
asking for.
this out. Our role is to present the best budget we can that we believe has a chance of passing. I mean, at the end of the day, we get one shot at this.
right.
And then our funding partner, the city, we don't have any control over what happens in Richmond. And we don't really have control over what happens with the city, but our job is to go to the city and say, here's what we're asking for. In my conversations with the city manager, the 5% is a real stretch. It was a non-starter. So, he even requested that we go back and sharpen our pencil if there's anything we could move out a year, which we did,
Right.
in trying to make that number that we're asking for, something that they can even get close to. And that's the conversations I've had with the city manager. My role is to work with the city manager to draft a budget that has some possibility of getting funded. Because in the end of the day, again, that's the only thing we have any control over, is what we ask for the city to partner with us on. And we're reading the tea leaves about what might go toward that from the state. I think they're gonna come out with a 3%, and I think the governor's gonna sign it, but what do I know, you know? I think it's a dangerous thing for the governor to go against a pay raise for state employees.
At the 5%, and again, obviously, we're falling behind York County, we're already behind, and then they're at 5.5.
Right,
If the other surrounding localities even do 3 to 4, we remain at the
well,
bottom of the
we'll
barrel,
come ahead,
though,
I
right?
think we come ahead of Gloucester, which we have, I don't think ever done. So we've always been at the bottom, the history of Poquoson as far back as I can tell, if you look at salary comparisons. And the challenge is, we've talked about it, I think we spent a lot of time in our last meeting talking about the dynamics of being a small community with 12,000 residents and no real industry. So what all of the tax funding that keeps this ship sailing comes, the majority of it, from ad valorem taxes, personal property tax.
Or
personal
add
property.
in construction that gives you property tax.
Yeah, property tax, it's all, that's what I said,
Ad valorem.
property, ad
But we
valorem
don't have
tax
to
is
add
called.
up, yes, but new houses, new areas brings in more property tax, not adding to people.
Yeah, so what we've been told is that the city has predicted an amount of money that they have over last year's budget to work with, to give their employees raises, to
Right.
all the things that the city has to do. And I was told that our 5% ask was a stretch and would be difficult. This past week, we were asked to give numbers for a 3% raise to the city. So, which we did, and
And this is for every employee.
all employees.
So teachers, if we wanted to give raise to teachers, that wouldn't be full employees. We could do raise to teachers. if we-
Could, but we're at the bottom of the list for everybody.
I
So
know,
it's
but one step at a time to get them up and see where we're at to keep going.
I could tell you that you'll hear from it loud and clear, and you talk about retention and recruitment. The most dangerous thing you can do in an attempt to hire and recruit and retain employees is to tell one employee you're more important than the other.
Right.
And that's what you do when you delineate a pay raise. It's a very, very dangerous path. And, you know, it's not something we've even looked at or considered. I don't know of a school division doing anything like that. It sends a very scary message. But our employees on every rung are at the bottom in our region.
I think if we discriminated, and said, hey, you're more important than this guy or whatever, that would creative.
That's all I have on the special education stipends.
And open the door
I
to
don't-
mass exodus.
The stipend is not the same.
Well, I mean, people were not happy with
Well,
that as
people
well.
were not happy with
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
exactly, they weren't, so
Right.
imagine.
So I don't,
Yeah.
you know, like, I was just talking to the custodian here,
Differentiate.
he's a bus driver.
Right.
And he was talking to me about the salary, you know, and we're having a hard time, you know,
We don't have enough,
right.
we don't have enough.
So I think sometimes raises though are based on how hard it is to find that position. And it might be hard to find custodians, we might have to jump custodians up at some point. And sometimes you have to focus on, in the hospital does it, and probably other industries does it, when something is hard to find and you need that to make yours good, you might have to throw something like a stipend to someone to say, we have to fix this problem first. Well, and we told everybody, we'll still look at everybody else too, but right now we have a problem, and it might not be teachers, or it might be completely off. But we have to figure out if we do have a problem and we can't give everybody, we would love to give everybody, we might have to look at
Well-
how to start moving piles around to
But we
start.
can give everybody,
Yeah, we can do
the budget gives everybody.
3 to 5%. I just don't think it's a good idea.
The budget the budget will propose.
So, VSBA, how much do we pay them a year?
VSBA.
Virginia School Board Association. Okay. And then, yeah, speaking of custodial, $500,000, so. Do
We
not
contract
that
custodial
out?
services,
Okay, because,
and have always have, and
So-
cafeteria
That's who he
services.
was talking to.
And is
He
Karen
drives
School say
for the schools,
continuous
but he's a custodian.
He's a
charge?
custodian of
At
this
one
building.
time.
Yeah, he's a city employee.
what?
The one he was just talking about.
It's the
custodians.
gentleman that works here in this building.
Yeah.
He just works two different.
So anyway, just to summarize again, what our budget, or my proposed budget does is I think it is something that's getting close to a reachable amount that the city, I'm hopeful, can get close to. The 623 was, again, too far out, and they requested us to come back and send them at least, so they would have for numbers purposes for a 3%, which tells a lot. So if that's what they've asked for, a number, that is a sign that that's a number they need for calculation purposes. Now, our 5% ask is a stretch. I think that the amount of money, and I don't have it exact, that they're working with is not much more than our ask. So that's just what I've been told, and those are things we have to weigh in as we, present a budget that's defendable.
So as us as a school board, are we supposed to ask for what we think the school needs, or are we supposed to ask for what the city wants us to ask for?
Well, let me answer that this way. Every school board in the state of Virginia wants to give all of their teachers the biggest raise they can. Every superintendent, every employee wants the most. So that's, the answer to that question is, everybody wants the most. So the end of the day is, what can our funding partner afford is the real question, because they want to give our teachers the highest raise they can.
So-
If you ask any one of them, and I have,
Yeah.
they all want the highest raise they can give for all employees.
But
And that's the answer.
I don't know if the ask would be the highest pay of all employees, but the ask would be to get off the bottom at some point. And if we are always comfortable never asking, which we have been every time I've done the budget, don't ask, but then every complaint we ever make is, we pay them the less, what else can we ask from them? And so we don't ask for it, which the city might not be able to pay, but our job, I think, is to ask for what we think is needed most, because every complaint we always have, it comes back to, they left because of pay, they don't want to do more because of pay, we are working with the bottom because we don't pay them enough, and every complaint for almost 2.5 years I've been here has been, well, we don't pay them enough. But we don't ask for the pay because the city can't get it, that's fine, but I think if
We've
we
asked every
advocate
year.
at least for, okay, 10%, add it on and say, sorry, this is what the board feels that the employees are worth and we have to do. Y'all can say no if you want, but the board is doing this. So maybe the city can ask for voting to say, hey, do we want to add some taxes because this is what the school board's asked for and we just can't afford it, and let this whole community vote, and then all of a sudden they all say no, 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 no. We did our part as a school board, instead of just saying, let's just ride and hope that the lowest is okay. Because we have
This
great
isn't- I know,
individuals,
that's fair.
we have great individuals who love this and wanna do what's best for the kids, which is great. So let's just ride them even more and give them the less, because we're not gonna ask and have a chance for the city to have to come ask the community. And if the community says no, which people might vote say, no, I don't want this extra tax, I don't want that. Fine, at least we put it out there and we made the community make a decision that we have to do as a community instead of us thinking what the community wants and does it all.
Well, I think that, you know, that's a good argument, but I think the better thing to do is to work with the city, like if you wanted to develop a constructive plan over, like, I don't know what the long-term debt is for the city and like what they can afford long-term, but is there a strategy, a long-term plan that we can work with the city and get some estimates maybe, you know, like, I don't think, you know, 10% I realize is, from the numbers that we're hearing, is
718,000 more?
But remember-
Is that what we're asking for?
But you have to remember that money continues, right? So
Right.
that continues into the next year, continues into the next year,
Yeah.
continues into the.
it keeps
Would
growing.
benefits go up if you're giving
Yes.
raises?
Yes.
Salaries,
Percentage of your-
Yes.
so salaries
Probably
are around
goes up, right?
720,
Right.
and then your benefits
So
are
it'd be
about
900, so it'd be $1 million.
So you gotta
One
remember.
liability.
Oh, yeah, cause VRS and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
right?
And that's why we saw, sorry, I'm
Sorry,
going, I didn't mean
no,
to.
you have to remember though, this is in perpetuity, right?
Yes.
So once you start, that doesn't come backwards, that doesn't, it's every year, right? So every time you're asking for that plus whatever the next is, whatever the next is, whatever the next is. And I don't think it is our job to go and say to the politicians, to tell them how to do their job. I think that's a mistake too. I think, you know, we're here, we're working together as a team to collaborate, to come up with recommendations and suggestions for the people whose job this is to know this stuff. That's not our job. Our job isn't to put a budget out to say, city council, you need to go ask the citizens what they want.
Yeah, no,
That's
right.
that's not what we're supposed to do.
We're putting what we need.
But
And
we
you know
have
what,
an
they can't
expert-
run, I hit
But
it.
CJ, we have an expert right here,
Okay.
and right here, telling us what we
Perfect.
need.
Do we need to increase pay of our
Absolutely.
staff? Do we need to get off the bottom
And
at
we
some
are.
point?
Yeah.
Do we need to make a big bump at some point in our life when we've been
We
here?
do, and I've said this since I've been here, and there's a strategic way to do that. This is not it.
Yes,
The strategic way to ask for something that you know our funding partners can't do, when they've made it clear that there's no appetite for tax increase, is asking for a line to be drawn in the sand. And we've had such an incredible partnership with the city of Poquoson all these years. And we can't change the facts. The
No.
facts are that we live in a very small place with a limited income that
No industry.
falls on no industry.
Almost no
It's
industry. You have
just
to be careful.
the elephant in every room in this conversation. And I will say this, and I hesitate to say this publicly, but the reason that York can do what they're able to do this time is because they are in a reassessment year. And reassessment year for a city that size, county that size, is a lot of money. I've heard figures, and I shouldn't quote them because I've just heard them, that they're talking in excess of $20 million. So when you're talking about that kind of
So a
money,
couple cents.
it's a whole different thing. So
It's a lot of mileage, we're not, and it's not, being in Poquoson City Schools is not the same as being in York County School. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
we
not
have
a
3
one
less
for one.
days.
I mean, I think we're at a point now,
Tab is
you know, from an overall teacher and staff retention standpoint, we've got to come up with ways to increase the salary. You know, to CJ's point, you know, there's got to be a way, and to everybody's point, there's got to be a way that we,
quality of life.
you know, bridge the gap more than what it has been in the past. But at the same time, do other creative things to make Poquoson attractive for people
That's
to
right.
want to come to.
And here's something that when I was talking about doing this strategically, strategy is not to just throw a big request out there that you know can't happen. That's not strategy.
No.
Strategy is to go when the funding is dried up. Now, we've been in an unusual pattern since COVID that I've never seen. Again, I've been doing this a long, long time. Typically, what you see in an initiative from state funding for schools is a cost of living, 2%. Sometimes you'll see a 3 or 3.5 in an extraordinary year. This, we've experienced 18% pay increases in the city of Poquoson for school employees over the last 3 years. That's extraordinary, and it's because the state has launched out on a plan to try to meet the national average, which is an aggressive plan. They've been on this track for several years now, and the biennium budget, we didn't even talk about next year's, is already in this as another 3% coming out. Once you do these kind of pay raises, knowing that the city has to pay half of that,
Yes.
you don't come in and say, okay, now we want to jump on top of that. You do that when you're going to have small, incremental, normal pay raises over time. That's going to level out. The money's going to dry up. You're not going to get these kind of pay raises year after year after year forever. So when that happens, that's when you strategically go to the city and say, let's look at a compression chart. Let's look at bumping our rungs for all of our teachers. That's a strategic way you move that needle from the bottom up a little bit. You don't do it by coming in and saying we want 10% that you know can't be funded in 1 year. Also knowing that that has to reoccur every year.
But would that maybe bring it down to 8 and 3 the following year, and how to work with them to show that this is something that
They
is
can't do
needed to get creative for?
They can't
Yes,
physically do 8.
I know, but like now I'm going to look that says, hey, we're going to start creatively coming to you, and now one might have to look at different options that we're doing because this is a need that the school board has said. You've said it every single day. Anything bad comes up, you say it's because of the teachers don't get paid shit. I'm sorry, that's how it says. It might not be on camera then, it's on it now. That's where we come to. It comes down to we are working with the bottom sometimes and they don't get paid and it's hard to do stuff for them. Just like 3 extra days is a hard sell. It comes into they know they're the bottom of the barrel, but they are still great teachers. and
That's
they
not
still
what
do
I've
it.
said at all,
But
actually,
City
Mr.
Council-
Childress. I want to respond to that. I've never suggested that that any of the challenges that we see in Poquoson is because of the fact that our teachers are not paid as well as they ought to be. What I have said is we're in a national educator shortage, and when you are, you're dipping into a very shallow pool. I've used that analogy very, very often, and what I mean by that is we're competing with people who do pay better. And when a teacher is deciding, am I going to teach here or there, and I can make more money there, yes, we are less competitive. But it has not reflected in any way on the performance that our teachers
Performance,
have
I didn't say
demonstrated.
no.
They
said
have
really,
performed at the top, and we've done that study. Tim
Yeah.
looked at this analytically, and there's, our teachers outperform everybody. And they do it year after year
And I
after year, and have always done
and I
that.
said, they care so much for these kids that they do a great job, 100%.
They
But
always
sometimes they get burnt out and then they say, you know what, I'm gonna leave for the money. And we have had that where these great teachers who care for the kids and do it because they care for the kids and do it for less pay because they've accepted and they love Poquoson and they do a great job and that's why we score high, do sometimes start leaving and start doing stuff and
And
it's
they
hard
also
because
come
it's
back.
paid.
And they come back often. This is a great place to teach and work, and it's not always about money. Although that doesn't change, I don't think that changes our mission to campaign for as much money as we can. So the question is, what can we
So how do we,
campaign for?
I think that what we're feeling here is a little bit of Groundhog Day, right? So it's like, every year we wanna ask for more, and we get to February, March, and it's, well, we gotta pass this budget, and then we didn't really come up with the 5-year plan with the city to say, this is ultimately, if it's compression, if it's merit pay, whatever it is that we decide, there's never any kind of working group working towards it, so it always just feels like we're just sticking it, and then the board's gonna change, and it's like, you're never gonna get anywhere.
Here's the
if
answer
we
to
don't
that.
ever get
I
to
hear
that.
you completely and completely understand that concern. But again, we've been in an unusual situation. Should this have happened years ago? Yes. There should have been a comprehensive study A salary study's how you start it. Where are we compared? What can we do? What are the experts come in and tell you? The city just did this past year. They're ready to report their own salary study. And they delineate over the course of 5 years, this is what happens year one, this is what happens year two. You partner with your funding partner. How do we, skin this cat each year? And you do this in stages. You can't do that and at the same time ask the city to pay half of a sizable pay raise. So the reason that we're in this situation is this simple. 18% over 3 years is unheard of in public education. Unheard of. It hasn't happened in my 33-year career. So what we're doing is extraordinary all over the state. And it's because the state is trying to do something as a state to be competitive nationally. And they're trying to get, there was an article came out in 2021 that Virginia was number 49 out of 50 states in average teacher salary. Now, that's a hard thing to do in Virginia because the average is a misleading number. Northern Virginia pays actually very competitively, and the outskirts don't. So if the average is skewed, Northern Virginia are the larger school systems with higher pay. So what I'm suggesting is, and I know it looks like we keep kicking that can down the road, but I think it's an unfair request to go in to say, we need you to pay half of the amount we need just to stay in the game. And we need you to pay another amount to get closer to our nearest competitor. You can't do both.
And I think we can, like we talked about, bringing in more students, and that was a conversation. We need to have a plan that we're going to grow this much to help cover this, and we really have to figure it out, and that's
We do.
where this teamwork has to do.
Undershot it.
But we could bring in other, we
No,
talked
we
about bringing in
overshot.
outside kids to come get it.
We've estimated 50 and got 32 in for this year.
Right, we overshot. We said we
Yeah.
would have
We
more than we
overshot the
actually
budget.
did.
Yeah,
So,
we
Right,
did.
we did.
so
Yes.
are you, I mean, and I'm sure city council knows this, but, I mean, would it be fair to turn around and go to them with the budget as presented? And, but also along with that, a request to start that salary study?
Absolutely. We've
Yeah.
already had
In
conversations in
FY
terms.
'25, we have the compensation plan. We're supposed to have no compensation plan. That's been built into the budget. So
Yes.
we can address this
We, in our budget
So
is,
that would be not, that would not be,
in this
Not
budget,
for, it won't affect FY '25
Yeah.
salaries, but that would put
Right.
us on thing,
right.
of
schedule.
having a very thoughtful, professional plan done on how they can possibly.
but we would do that in,
25.
The study would be done in
be
2025.
done in 25, so a
So,
year
so,
from now.
so when we
That's
go
right.
into this
So
same
26.
process next year
Mhm.
to prepare for FY '26 budget, which is the next time this process happens, we'll be armed with
Right.
some real data and real planning to go to the city with. And that gives them time to start thinking about the process in advance, so it doesn't just spring on them. Second thing is, we're in an unusual situation that we may be able to, as a city, capitalize on, and that is projected growth. We haven't seen it yet, but we're anticipating it. So all of that happening, and the other thing that, like Dr. Ratliff was talking about, the city is looking at their debt service over a period of time, and that number's gonna change in 28, 29 pretty significantly. So, and they're planning toward that end, and they did their own salary study. We didn't think it was wise to do it at the same time as the city because we wanted, not to be in competition of that. But so we put it in our budget to contract the salary study for next FY '25. So we'll be prepared for FY '26 budget conversations to talk about that. Knowing that, we're also gonna have to campaign for another 3%, we hope, pay raise if the biennium budget gets signed by the governor.
So most likely we're asking for 5 and getting 3.
We don't know what we're gonna get, but I can tell you,
Most likely.
we're not gonna get more than we're asking for. We
Yes.
might get less, but so I think by us asking for 5, we're asking for an ambitious amount. I know everybody doesn't feel that way, But that is an ambitious amount, also knowing that, with exception of York, every other school division around us has a 3% budget request this year. Every other school system around us.
So it might be still lower than,
So what is choral department and band operations? What does that consist of? Because I see it in middle school and high school.
That's the cost that they have in order to run I know for like
They
band
buy
operations,
music, they
Doug's
buy
School,
replacement
and the
instruments,
choral,
they,
they do a lot, the
Uniforms.
costumes,
uniforms.
yeah, uniforms.
The whole program.
Thank God
I
we
just
funded
really
it.
feel we
Music is a lot.
don't get
too.
creative and we just, like Tim said, push the barrel down. And I think that's where we're at, and we just are not, and going to ask is saying, we're gonna do stuff too. We're asking for this, but we're gonna have to work harder to get this done too, and I just
We've
feel
done
like we
that,
don't do
we've
it.
cut,
I know.
we've
We
cut
have
every
some
possible place that we could cut that, and still run a highly effective school division.
I know.
The board has depended on staff, which every school board
I know.
does and should, to make the decisions necessary to move the system forward. We operate on a
Not
strategic
even
plan.
bringing kids in. I mean, that's not even, I mean, that's just something that was quick thrown out there, we could bring in more.
And we can do
into-
that.
And so, I mean, I don't know,
But you
I've been here
can't-
for a long time, and this is now my third one, and all three of them has just pushed it down. And I said no last year because we pushed it down. And I'm here again this year because I
What
pushed
does
it down
the
last year, we're
salary
pushing it
study
down this
tell
year.
us? I mean, you don't need to spend $50,000 to tell us we don't get pay our teachers all out.
No,
They
they-
come up with different things like.
Yeah, I hear
strategies.
you. It's a hard pill to take, but what they do is they scaffold they look at every kind of ways to increase your pay rung and the most efficient and cost-effective way to do it. And they look at it compared to what other school divisions have done all over the country. So they have expertise that we just don't have, and they have capacity in staffing to look at every line item and find out what can be done to build a highly effective compression chart for Poquoson schools. And you could
Yeah.
probably weigh in a little.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I mean, a lot of times, it's not gonna be all this 1% done, it's done. They can look at it, whether it's, strategically about maybe every 5 years, sometimes they'll even skip, because you'll notice in our pay scale, we have like 3 years and they're always the
All the
same.
same.
They're all the same, so we have some things in our pay scale as a whole just needs to be looked at. And particularly, they also look at the history of how we're losing our staff, and possibly how that needs to work, to be integrated.
Tenure of staff.
Exactly, yeah, just, we have that as well.
And then they make very comprehensive recommendations for the board to
And
consider.
we won't ask for just one recommendation either.
Right.
We're gonna ask for 3 or 4, depending on, say, how about if our funding need, we're expecting funding increases, we only go through reassessment of the city every 2 years, approximate this, we'll work with the planning department, how much is be coming on, because I know they got some coming on the roll in July, so, it's a give and take, working with the consultants.
They
'cause we
look
don't
at,
take it.
they look at all the Weldon Cooper information in detail, they crawl all through it, they look at ad valorem taxes, they get all the information from the city, they know what their debt service looks like, they know the whole picture. And there's, weird.
How much
Cost of
1
living.
cent, how much
What's that,
1
cost
cent
of
will bring
living?
in, yeah.
They look at possible businesses thinking about relocating. They look at every single thing. I've been through 3 salary studies in my career, and every time it's an enlightening, I promise you'll sit back and see that presentation and say, oh, that makes sense. And then we have something to take to the city that's tangible, that has answers to all the possible questions, and the answer can't be raise taxes. I mean, that can't be our answer, because we don't control that.
Right.
And we're asking another body to do something that,
So we're asking
There is a
them for
bill in the
funding.
assembly, though, that
They
will
decide the
allow
funding, how to get
the
it.
school boards to dictate what type of tax revenue goes to.
I
their
heard
fund.
that. There's some interesting bills that are in there. I haven't followed up. I got an email today about the ones that are in crossover, to see which ones have a chance of surviving. Because there was over 100 education bills still alive last week. So, and they're not all funding. Some of them are. There's one that says you can't suspend a kid from school until you've tried a, what is the language they're using?
Progressive discipline.
What?
Yes, yeah, there's another name for it. It's,
It's like the
Restorative?
least
Restorative,
restrictive.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
my-
like the least restrictive
So-
yes, the
restraint.
restorative practice. So, I mean, I'm just using that as an example. There's lots of bills in there. So if they get passed, and crossover and they get signed by the governor, then we'll have a whole plate of new things to look at. Some of them will have some funding attached to them. And so those things all get resolved. But what our role is now is we have to present a budget to the city. And this is a clarification piece. My job by general statute is to submit a superintendent's budget to the board to be approved, to comply with the local ordinance of submitting it to the city. That ordinance requires me to submit it by the end of March. So we have a very definitive time frame. We started earlier this year than we ever have before in putting this budget together, and it starts with our teachers and staff telling us what they need. So I know it feels like it's just kick the can down the road, but a lot of work goes in here to find out what we need to build this budget. And then we build it using our expertise and all the collaborative work of all of our employees at some level to build this. And then we work with the city. What is it that we start meeting with the city? What is it that we can feasibly look at to come out of here? If he had said, hey, I think y'all should shoot for the moon, we would have come to you with a
I think shooting for the moon is
20%
wrong.
pay raise.
Just like telling someone what you're expecting to play for a playground is the wrong thing. But you're giving us a budget, and I think we have an option to add to it, and that's our option to say yes or no to the budget, because we are saying what we feel the school needs, the employees need, and I think that's my task on the school board, and I might be completely off. And if that means that we might have to ask more than the city's ready to give, we asked for it, we didn't get it, so then we have to get creative for the next time to say, we're asking for it again, and this is what we might do next time. Can we do it this time to try again what we asked for last time? And that's where I'm going to be sitting at. And it's okay, I'm the only no, and that's fine too, but I feel we have to advocate for our employees, and that's going to be our school, and advocate for our students, and that's what I'm feeling that we're not doing. And that's me, only me, and I'm the only one speaking for it, and that's when the vote comes in. So if it comes in and more people say no, what's the next step to get your time to do it, just in case? It probably won't happen, it might be one no, but if that happens, what's the next step?
There is no next
Go
step.
tell
I'm
them
gonna,
Richmond.
this is my budget.
Okay, so if
It's
we
not
say
gonna
no,
change.
so if we say no,
It's not gonna change until the board changes it. And so
Okay.
what happens is I'm gonna present this budget, we're gonna
Propose
publish
and-
it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right, and then you would, if you don't agree, you can propose amendments.
Yep.
Because it
Okay.
is your
Yep,
budget
and
at that time.
So the board can do several
You can
things.
propose
One is they
amendments.
can, you can approve the budget as it is, a motion to approve the budget as it is, and they can take a vote.
By quorum.
Someone can make a motion to amend the budget and say, we want to put a 20% pay raise in there, and then if that gets a second, and the board can vote on that. So the budget can be amended in that meeting. It just can't be amended here. This is my last amendment, so I'm taking this budget to present to, I'm gonna publish it tomorrow morning because my time frame is up. And this is, I think, a very solid budget. I think it does all the things that we want, except we're never, ever gonna have all the money we want for our teachers. And I wish I could say that differently, but the city of Poquoson is never gonna be able to afford to pay teachers what they deserve, because that's an ambitious,
Nobody does.
and I'm not sure they do in any
Right.
city. Maybe Fairfax teachers are not paid what they deserve.
I mean,
The state of
Commensurate
Virginia's
with what you
teachers
do.
are not paid what they deserve because we're below the state average, and so, I mean, the national average, so that tells you, right?
some areas are closer than others.
That's true.
Yeah.
Northern Virginia is a whole
Right,
different
again.
one, but it costs more to live there.
It costs more to live in Poquoson. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's where we're.
and that's where we're at.
I
It's
showed
cheaper
you
to live in
the study,
Gloucester.
you call it
I
cost of
mean-
living or poverty rate, but
I mean, we're just looking at, it is what it is though. I mean, this is where we're at, but that's what
And that's
it
the,
is.
and again, in the defense of city council, the cost of living in Poquoson is not cheap. So they have to look at, do we raise that more? And that's a tough, a tough thing. I don't envy their position.
And I think it's everybody getting creative. We need to get creative too. We
right,
really do.
but being creative doesn't necessarily mean that you go to the city and work against. To me, what it feels like is working against
We need to work with the city.
them versus partnering with them.
So asking for it, not getting it, and then having a working relationship,
Yeah, but you're
try to
putting them
figure
in
out how
a
to
bad
get it.
position.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a bad light because
Last 2
basically-
years, we just did whatever was
I
said
understand,
and to around it.
But-
So none of us had to
At
work
some
on it because we
point-
accepted
What were you
it.
gonna say?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, it puts them in a bad position because then teachers are gonna blame them because they didn't get the raise because they're the ones who.
Right,
you know,
that's
And
right.
let me just
Fine.
say this,
So, I mean,
I've
we're
lived through
essentially
this.
passing the buck to city council instead of
Well,
trying
no,
to
what,
figure.
no, we're not. So
We
by
are,
working
because we're
together,
saying, hey, we
Oh,
want 20%.
if we request
but-
more,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
No,
20
if-
is
if
kind
we-
of way over. I mean, come on.
Right, but if you went
yes,
10,
you can
but
say
if you went 10,
500% if you want to look at it.
But if you went 10%, that
Okay.
was what you threw out originally. The messaging, twofold, to me, the messaging says, you're making an assumption that city council doesn't care about the people, and I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's fair, and I don't think they're not trying to find a way to give us the most money possible, one. Two, then we're saying, well, look at us, we're saying we wanna give you 10%, but city council, we know you can't do that, and we're gonna, that's not a reasonable position to put people in when we're collaborating to put something out there that's in the best interest of everyone. You know, not everybody that lives in this city has a student in the school. Not everybody has students, not every, you know, so you're singly looking at this from your perspective as a taxpayer and a parent, but not everybody's in that situation. So I don't think that we are in a position to nullify anybody else's stance on how much they care or don't care about the students by how much money they are willing or not willing to give us. I think everybody's doing the best they can to make sure we have the most amount of money
I
possible.
think we are asking for what we want, and if we can't find it now, we have a working relationship to try to figure out how to get there. And that might take us figuring out how to get another student in that classroom for $1,500. That might get creative on figuring out how to hire different teachers that can do multiple tasks to let them be able to do different things instead of having these extra plan periods that we talked about. It is, how
But
can
we
we
have
get
that.
creative? We
But
don't.
we do have some of that in stipends, CJ.
Yeah, but that's your opinion is we're pushing the buck. My opinion is not we're pushing the buck. My opinion is saying this is what we need and this is what we want to keep asking for going forward, and we have to work with you to figure out how to get there. Not, we will just say, we're just gonna ask for this, and you know what? Another year or two, I'll be off anyway, and the next person can push the buck because no one stood up to do
I
it.
don't think
This
you're
is my
not
third
pushing the
time.
buck,
This is my
CJ.
third time of not going higher. Because
We've
we
gone-
have not
we've gone
worked.
18% higher
20% increase, 18% came from the state that all pushed it up. I understand some of it came from the city, 100%.
Half
Yeah,
from the
but
city.
we have hit a point where inflation skyrocketed and everybody went up. Every single job went up, unfortunately. And I think the city has done good. I am not pushing this on the city. I'm saying we have work to do too. But what we do is do what's comfortable. Well,
But I
not
don't
everybody, but I guess
It's
that's
not
what I've
comfortable.
seen for
There's
2.5
I don't
years.
Nothing comfortable, we have
2.5
done nothing
years
comfortable.
of nothing trying to get creative
We-
to see what we
How
can
is
do.
18% over 3 years not doing anything?
Every area
Help me
did it.
understand. No,
Gloucer
help
did
me-
it.
So,
You
but
see, we
CJ,
have not
everybody,
made anything. We have not made any improvement to say we're closer to where we want to be. Well, unfortunately, we just said, we gotta stay
but
exactly where
that's because
everybody's at.
everybody's doing the same thing, CJ. It's the nature of inflation. It's the
know.
it's the
Everybody's doing the same
finance.
thing.
Right, it's the
You're right.
finance of the way that it operates. So, you know, I think it's great to have a goal. We should all have a goal. We all wanna pay our teachers what they get paid at York County. The reality is,
Reality of York County's not there. I'm not asking
Okay.
for 13.5%,
Gloucester.
and they're doing 5.5.
Okay, Gloucester. So if Gloucester gives 3% and we give 5%, guess what? We're closer. And so people are working and there is creativity.
understand
And
that
so,
we're- okay.
well, no, you just said we're not.
We are
You
not
just said
getting
we're not.
as creative as we can be to get this money. We threw out the idea of getting more students in the work.
That is not a budgetary issue.
That's
So
right.
we talked about that, CJ, and the reality is, we're gonna bring that to the table, it's already on the agenda, we're coming to the table
I know.
for this board to discuss. The merits of that, it's not just a budgetary consideration, there's a lot to that, and it's a conversation we ought to have, and if it helps us budgetarily, great.
So does the
But-
4-day.
There's a lot of conversations that this board can have creatively, but I'm recommending that we have a study, which is in this budget to conduct, that gives us some real strategic, well thought out ways to close this gap that we all wanna close. And the cleanest way to do that is to pass this budget as it is. I think there's a strong chance that we'll get close to that 5%. We might even get it because of the fact that we have done what the city manager asked us to do. See if there's any way to whittle it down a little bit, and we whittled it another $114,000. I think that's gonna get us close to more than a 3% raise. I do think that 3 was what we were gonna end up with otherwise.
Artie,
And if we could get close to 5, or if we get 5, that's a win. There's no chance we're gonna get more than that. It's just not, there's no possibility of that.
this, just a process question. Do you or the school board or collectively put a cover letter on this?
Yeah,
The
what
city
we send a letter, well, we send our budget
Right.
to the city. They've already got a copy of it because
Sure.
they were at our work session, but Tara was here. And they start picking through it. You know, they know as much about this budget as we do by now. And that's smart planning. They've done that with all the budgets submitted to them. It has to be published formally a certain number of days out ahead, so we'll publish it formally tomorrow. But we talk, you know, I mean, I don't think we put there is a cover letter in here that summarizes already in the
guess-
budget.
We have a meeting, we have a joint meeting.
I understand. I guess where I'm going is I would really like to see like a joint cover letter from the superintendent and the school board, kind of outlining, you know, hey, here's our proposed budget, da-da-da-da-da. You know, these are our concerns holistically as a school system, and these are the steps that we're starting to take forward. You know, in other words, kind of frame the discussion that we just had, right? You know, because I think it goes a long way to, you know, while we have discussions with city council and we're having this discussion and it, you know, it's being recorded, but that it's written that, you know, hey, here's our, you know, opinion of where
Yeah,
things
we
sit.
can try to capture this
Sure,
with
yeah, I
a
mean-
budget message. Now, also what we do, and this is sort of what you're saying as well, but that's an easy thing to put together a letter. We then take, starting after, the day after this budget is approved, which should be the 20th of March, I go to each school and I hit the road basically and share these conversations with our staff. We have staff meetings, we show the budget, we talk through all the things, the whys, you know, because the first thing they're gonna look at, what is the pay raise? And we go through and talk to them about all the things that we're talking about now. You know, we all want more money. We want to go find more money for you, and we'll have these kind of deep conversations with staff. So not only city council, but also
Sure,
staff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, because I've got some weed questions.
I think some good news out of this for next year, since our LCI goes down, state gives us more money, right?
Yes.
So instead of being like 7,900, it would be 1.75% higher than that.
Yes, all of this, there's the outlook for us, see, all of this is, again, strategic.
Yeah.
If we do a comprehensive study next year, our LCI is down, the development is supposed to yield additional students, haven't seen them yet.
But then it may
And-
balance itself
And the
out.
third thing is, no, that actually both help us. LCI down generates more money, more kids generates more money.
If the LCI, but wouldn't the LCI go up at that point? Because then the city would be able to contribute more?
No,
It's based on a biennium.
it's a biennium.
So it's gonna be set.
Oh, so
stays
for
the
next
same.
year,
Yeah, for
pretty
next
much?
2 years.
So then the other thing that
Almost 2
happens
years.
is next year's a reassessment year.
Oh, wow.
So again, what York is doing this year, we can do next year. So again, this should be done strategically. And that is a process that doesn't just happen with, pick a percentage out of the sky and ask for it.
Benefit cost or maintaining constant, correct? Is that correct? Is that going back to the benefits for the teachers?
That's
For
for the
for the
teachers.
teachers.
For next
their-
year.
For next
their
year.
Correct,
cost,
yeah.
right?
Their cost
And
is
that's
remaining constant.
another
correct?
thing that
That
I'm
is
gonna
worth noting.
capitalize on,
That is worth noting.
when we talk about,
Okay,
Your county cannot do that.
they cannot do
Explain
that.
again, Kristen.
And some of the other school divisions are looking at 8-9% increase in healthcare costs.
Okay,
Right.
alright, okay.
And we are not passing along, we have a
Yeah.
2% increase, which is also notable,
It is absorbed.
but it is
Right.
being absorbed by our budget
Right.
and not passed on. So that is certainly,
So those are talking
Noteworthy.
points
Well,
then.
again, I don't want to, I'm gonna be careful how I say this. This budget is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work on a lot of levels with a lot of people. And it is comprehensive, and it's not a just kick the can down the road budget. It is a budget that includes every single request that teachers have asked for to do their job at the highest levels. That's not an accident, that's not something that's easy to do. It's a very important part of this process to support teachers at the level they need supported. Now, yes, we want to pay them more money, but the other side of this is we're creating an environment that makes their work easier and better, and that's part of this formula too. The fact that we were able to negotiate a 9% health increase down to 2% took a lot of work and sweat and tears, and not pass that on to the employee, not $1 of it. Another level of trying to support our staff. So there's lots of levels of support that I'm gonna stress when I talk to the faculty about, the staff and faculty about this. This is a good budget. It is comprehensive, and it covers a lot of things, and it's playing catch-up from some things that have been ignored in years past, or I won't say ignored, they've been left out. There's some good stuff in here. Operationally, there's some good maintenance stuff. There's some maintenance stuff that we're catching up on in this budget. It's a good budget. It's not a, it's a good budget. I'll leave it at that.
So can I ask some weed questions?
Sure.
Just, I noticed that, and this is just some questions, on page 38 of the budget, this is under the high school vocational instruction. I noticed that.
What
so,
tab are you on?
This is.
Page 38.
Page,
yes.
sorry. The Aviation Academy had a $10,000 decrease in funding, and then the CTE state equipment. I'm just kind of curious about the
All
aviation.
based on enrollment.
Okay.
So
we've
what
got less
happens is
students.
we saw a toggle from Aviation Academy to New Horizons. So New Horizons went up significantly, our enrollment. So kids choose.
Right.
And so we saw less kids. Aviation Academy was a very popular program here, and still a great program, when it was housed at the original place it was housed, and then they moved it to Denby High School.
It was at the old airport.
Yeah, and our kids have since disengaged some from that program. So you'll see some movement in student
Interesting.
enrollment, and the numbers follow that, and thus funding.
So there was, I went to the CTE meeting last week, and, there was the question, we talked a lot about different programs for kids, and so I feel pretty strongly that we should give those types of programs as much funding as we can, and so.
We fund it dollar for dollar, so,
Yeah.
for example, whatever they enroll, and Tim serves on that board over
Right.
at New Horizons.
Which I'd like to
If
go
we
to
get
New
one
Horizons,
kid
by the way.
if we get one kid or 100 kids, we're gonna fund them, and we get a,
Every school pays their proportion of the
Right.
student enrollment.
Right.
So like, Newport News pays more because they got
More
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So getting back to the benefits real quick.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Were you?
No, I'm good, I'm good.
Okay. So, I had submitted a bill to the assembly to pretty much have school boards partner, together to spread the cost of insurance premiums even further to, thus reducing the monthly premium. Then, I received a phone call from someone saying that the peninsula used to do that. And, yeah, and one school division pulled out, so all of them pulled out. So, the person that I talked to said that there's a few school divisions that are interested in that. So,
it's
would-
worth a
would that be
conversation.
anything?
I didn't know that. I mean, it's certainly not since I've been here.
Self-insurance pools?
Mhm.
Self-insurance pool?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Federal,
That-
like federally regulated?
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. One of the things about being small is sometimes it's an advantage, sometimes it's not. And the fact that we were able to get our number down to 2% when our neighboring school divisions are double that or triple that is a good thing for us now. That won't always be the case the next time we negotiate that number, because it's a formula based on who's using it and how much it's costing them. It's an insurance company. They charge you based on what you know. So, and I came from a state where it was centralized. So, you know, in North Carolina, every school division gets the same health insurance package. Doesn't matter which school division you work for.
Yeah, I got mine right here.
So, there's power in numbers if you can negotiate collaboratively. So that's a good. Did you get any mileage on your bill? Is it still alive?
It didn't pass crossover.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments to myself.
Okay. All right. So unless there's any more questions or discussions, what we'd like to do is we'll put, again, we've run out of time, so we'll publish this proposed budget as it exists currently tomorrow morning. We'll put, and of course at our meeting, we're required by law to have a hearing. We do that in the same meeting always, so it'll be published in our meeting on the 19th, that we will be having a budget hearing, so the public will be invited to come out and speak to the budget. It will have been available for 2 weeks for them to review. Then we'll have an item for consideration after the hearing. You know, we'll actually have to open up hearing, close the hearing, go back into board meeting. And one of the items for consideration will be the superintendent's FY25 proposed budget. At that time, you all can, it becomes up for grabs. You do whatever you want to with it, and whatever you all leave that, but the only requirement is something has to happen that night, because we have an ordinance to comply with to deliver an approved budget to the city council immediately thereafter. So that's really our work cut out for us, and it won't hurt my feelings if y'all change the budget. It's we've done the best job we can to present one that we think is a good one.
So with that, yeah, I've requested a detailed line item, you know, so we can see where all our expenditures are. So I know a lot of boards and council, they receive a line item detail of all the expenditures for that month. Would that be something to
You do
incorporate in the
every
board?
month in
Well,
your
we-
board meeting.
We
That's
get the summaries though.
that's
He
the
wants-
line item.
I'm talking about Verizon, blah, blah, blah.
You want to go through a 20-page thing of every bill we pay every month?
Well, I mean, that's the only way that we can see exactly, you know, what we're spending the money on, instead of, you know, we just have a
I
summary
guess
right
we
here.
can. I've never seen a request like that. I mean, that's really in the weeds of operations. That's an operations side of the house, but we can certainly do that if you want to pour through every PO paid every day. I mean, we pay hundreds of bills a day.
Where we have things maybe rolled up in 3,000 that's contracted services,
Mhm.
he just wants to see 301 contracted services, whether it's, I don't know.
Did we buy hammers? Did we buy
See, there's two
screwdrivers?
different things you're asking for, or do you want to see the warrant
Invoices.
list?
The what?
It's called a warrant
Warrant
list
list.
Oh.
of what you pay for every check that's been written.
I thought when you made that request, I said, well, we're getting ready to
Yeah.
print that budget packet. It's got everything in it categorically. But you want to look at every single expenditure. If we
check.
buy a
Single
roll of
penny.
toilet paper.
Yeah.
Every
Yes.
check,
Oh,
so every
correct.
check that's been
Wow,
okay.
re-warrant, they call it a warrant report.
Okay.
That's what I'm
What's
hearing
that?
you ask
Yeah,
for.
No,
So
definitely
check
not.
number 101 is to John Smith,
We don't have any
professional
budget.
services,
Right.
$1,000.
Yeah.
You wanna
Wow.
work.
Because I mean, you already have to input that data,
Organic chemicals.
and then
Yeah,
it's just a
understand.
printout,
It's
if
just,
that
it's
fails.
at the pleasure of the board. I mean, the information's available.
Didn't have any schools burned down when I was there.
Me
What?
either, but
How-
kids these days don't
how
do what we did.
accessible is, I mean, is that just a
Yeah.
printout?
Board
Yes,
packet.
it's
Okay.
fine.
Does that need to go in the board packet?
We wouldn't be killing any trees. How else would we access it?
Well, I don't know, can it just be sent to you? Yeah, I mean, it can be put in the board packet.
Well, I mean, it's part of the financials, it's something that we
Well,
approve.
we have the financials.
We have a summary.
which
That is the
I've
financial.
Right,
I've
that
never
is the
seen a board look
that
at
is the
anything but
financial
the
report.
financial report summary, never seen it.
Really?
I mean,
heard
it's
of
probably
ever.
public
In
information.
any organization.
Is it public
I mean,
information?
you're welcome to come look at it, it's
So
nothing to
you-
hide,
you
but it's
could-
just a
it
weird
could
thing to
be-
ask for.
It could be at your pleasure to look at that,
Come
it's
over and
public
look at it.
information.
But to print that or even publish that out there with that granular, I've just never seen an organization do that.
But it is available.
It's available, I mean, we pay hundreds of bills a day. I mean, you're talking,
I mean, it's.
50 cent to
You can get it.
thousands of
the
dollars.
info.
I don't
Well, I'd
think,
have to report it.
no, I don't think,
I don't
no.
think so.
I don't want, I think you should just be able
It's
to.
public information, you
Any-
will,
anyone can
any
ask
can
for
come
it. That's
look
what I
at
meant
it.
by for it.
Right.
Any,
Yeah.
it's Joe Blow down on the street. Let's just say, I want all your
Yeah.
information. So it's definitely.
Just, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's, it would be hundreds of pages, I would imagine, maybe thousands.
No.
But-
Well, yep. So.
So I don't, to be clear though, he doesn't have to FOIA it,
Right.
he can just.
No,
Yeah.
he-
I said anyone else in this.
Yeah,
Yeah, anybody can see it, it's public.
so you can,
Because when we get those requests, I usually supply annually to a group of some specialty group out of Virginia.
Watchdog, what's the name of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I can't, Virginia
Yeah, the-
Advocacy Group or something,
Yeah.
so I do it, for the whole year.
It's the contributions, the donations and stuff
Yeah.
like that that you,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they ask for everybody, it's not just the school board, I've done it for
They also ask for
localities.
salaries,
Yeah.
they get, it's the same group that.
Free something project,
Yeah.
Virginia Free Access Project, that's what it is.
Any other questions before we finish up? Okay,
alright.
sounds good,
We'll adjourn
thank
now.
you all.
Thank you.